Start the recording now.
All right. Yeah, go ahead and start the recording. I'd like to call the DeSoto Planning Commission meeting to order tonight. And a few things I'll say up front. As you come in, make sure everybody signed in. And the meeting is being recorded. So any small talk back in the audience will possibly get picked up by the microphones. And
Yeah, some of it does. More importantly, if you're going to speak, during the public hearing comment, we do need you to come up to the podium and speak there. Otherwise, the recording won't get your voice just from the room mics. And that goes for the planning commissioners. You have on/off buttons on your microphones. Make sure if you're speaking that the green button is lit. Yeah,
correct.
and also the room can't hear you either if your green button isn't lit. So keep that in mind.
It's good to see us full room tonight. Appreciate y'all showing up. Uh, can we have the roll call, please?
Manson,
Present.
Hempel,
Here.
Lane,
Here.
Fisher,
Here.
McPherson,
Here.
Schultz,
Here.
and Commissioner Garrett is absent this evening.
Okay. Item 3, general business. Has everybody had a chance on the commission to look at the agenda for tonight?
Yep.
And if there's any corrections or modifications, I'd like to hear them. If not, if I could have a motion and a second to approve the minutes, the agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes or the agenda.
Yeah.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item B, approved minutes of the Planning Commission for the meeting held on June 25th, 2019. I assume everybody's read those. And if you weren't here, you would just abstain from the vote. So is there a motion and a second to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve minutes from last meeting.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Manson abstains, wasn't present at the meeting.
Okay, motion carries. Disclosure of conflicts of interest. Anybody on the commission have any conflict of interest on any of the items in front of us tonight? Have money involved or et cetera? Okay. Hearing none, I will move on to item D, disclosure of outside communications regarding commission business. Have there been any outside communications with the public or anybody else prior to this meeting? Okay. So hearing none, we'll move on to the call to public. The call to public is for people who are here who wish to speak on something that is not on the agenda tonight. Not the project on Sunflower Road, not the project down in the bottoms, not the long range plan, but anything else. If you'd like to get up and tell us about the sidewalks or whatever, we're here to listen. Get up and say your piece. 3-minute time limit. We won't take any action, but it's a good time for anybody out there that wants to throw anything out on the table to do so. So do I have any takers? Okay. Hearing none, I will move on to item 5A, the comprehensive plan update, the final report. And if we've seen this multiple times. The staff has worked diligently on this for 8 months. I mean, more than that.
Spring of 2018 is when
So if
we started.
if we could start with staff, give us a what do you want to call it? Not a summary, but
Yeah, I'm just going to give you
overview.
an overview. I mean, this is something obviously that is brought up. We started in the spring of 2018, and we had a consultant working with us for the first year, and they provided us both of the text of this, and then Mike and I did the final wordsmith, and also in conjunction with the planning commission, where we actually went and reviewed chapter by chapter. And then after it left the planning commission, we also had a similar type of meeting with the city council. So there were some comments that obviously the council had made the report that perhaps you might have been unaware of as the process moved forward. But we did have a final draft meeting where all council comments, all planning commission comments were put together in one meeting. That was at the June meeting. Since then, we took the comments that we got. And then completed necessary notifications for allowing public comment at this meeting tonight. We do have the entire document in front of you, which includes maps, charts, tables, everything that we talked about over the last year and a half. At this point, I don't really have any particular specific comments or things I wanted to point out to the planning commission. This is a public hearing for the citizens of Soto make comments to you, and then also make provisions. At this point, we would like to concurrence to forward this on to the city council or actually adopt a formal resolution. However, this is your document. It is something that I can't just take statute. Planning commission does make a formal motion. So with that,
Okay. Before I open the public hearing portion of the comprehensive plan, does anybody on the commission have any comments? I'll say this, that there's some stuff in here that has direct application on some of the projects in front of us tonight, namely the long-range plan. I mean, this is what happens when you make long-range plans. You have to decide what zoning goes where, and not everybody's going to be happy with that. But that's what we have to do. That's our duty, to try to make sense of development around the city of DeSoto. So if there are no, and I think this plan is, I mean, while it's wordy, I think there's reason for all the words. And, we talked about that at length. Well, there's disclaimers in here, as we've all talked about, that there's only so much time and energy. We can't achieve all the goals we set in here, but we're going to do the best we can. At least it's in writing and somebody can read it. And if we have a question on something, you can almost find it in here. Okay, so if we could open the public hearing portion of this meeting on the comprehensive plan update. And I hope there's somebody out there that came to speak about the comprehensive plan tonight. I don't see any hands going up. So I guess on the strength of no audible, no hands going up, we will close the public hearing. Oh, excuse me. Yes, ma'am. Would you please come to the podium and state your name and address? And
Holly Barth, I live off 95th Street.
thank you.
My full address? Yes, ma'am. I
Yes,
need your
please.
name and full address, please. It's Holly Barth, 37070 West 95th Street, Soto. And your last name is? Barth, B as in boy. Okay. ARTH. Thank you, Holly. I tried to read through the document. My questions, and I'll get back later, is more regarding the rezoning request.
Yeah.
But around the future use mapping versus the current state mapping, I know that the stretch of Sunflower, they've kind of changed that from a mixed use area to light industrial. So warehouses, retail, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I know when I got to the section regarding the rezoning of 95th and Sunflower, it talked about how, well, it's a little bit unconventional to maybe approve that rezoning request because the current state zoning doesn't really support that application, whereas in the future state it says, well, the swath of 95th and Sunflower, the Sunflower ammunition plant would be light industrial and had to be previously. I know there's been discussions for 30 some odd years about cleaning up the sunflower plant. I know that I was reading an article just last month that they're saying maybe 2028, that needed to be cleaned up. And there's probably not safe just around that subject alone. Do you feel like hanging your hat on the sunflower area potentially being remediated and cleaned up is a good enough reason to now make that sunflower juncture more industrial just because the plant, ammunition plant is there? I feel like that's not gonna be doing anything in the near term. And so to make that more industrial and have more trucking and more warehouses and more traffic going through that area when it's very much a rural area, you have mostly tractors and, giant bales of hay going back and forth on that road. You don't see semi trucks and that sort of traffic. Primarily you see level 1 trucks going back on 95th, because you don't usually see that sort of activity out there. So I was just kind of wanting to understand, with that future state mapping being more, taking the mixed use out of it, making it more light industrial, what are your thoughts around what you see going in there besides the rezoning request that is on the table for tonight?
Well, I'll start, and I'm sure other commission members will kick in and staff will kick in a little bit. But the long range plan is our best guess. Best guess at what might happen. And there's good highway access at the interchanges. Soto is so hilly, we're bounded by the river, on one side. We're up against Lenexa. It just seemed like that flat ground over there with 95th Street. I mean, it says we need to be DeSoto, and you made a lot of statements there that I'm going to try to hit the general gist of it. That there's been discussion all along that maybe 95th Street becomes a new corridor. Get off of K10 on 95th, go along 95th, and get back on at Lexington, or get that just seems to have commercial written on it for the future. Now that's our vision. That's not saying that's absolute, because this is our best thoughts. And usually a lot of times what happens is the first money that comes along, like the first developer that comes along, JC Nichols comes out here, and this is perfect. We see 600 houses in here, and on and on and on. Wouldn't that be wonderful? But it just didn't seem logical with the kind of the industrial area. You've got lumber one in there. It just seems to say light industry. So that was kind of our reason. Now, and we use the term mixed use because we don't know. We know there ought to be some light industry over there, because what it takes for light industry is pretty much flat ground, and in the hills you can do more. Residential looks neater, it builds into the hills, more character. It seemed to us that the flat ground in that area with reasonable access off of K10, mixed use and or light industry, seemed to be the best use. Now, this is a long range plan. It's not zoned. That's one of the things we're here for tonight, to take it to the next step. But did you come to some of the planning sessions?
I sorry to admit that I have not. So I wish I had. I wish I done my due diligence to be more aware and been involved, because I would have liked to maybe weigh down some things before now, which I know is probably a little bit too late, and I don't want to take up all the time, because I know there's more pressing issues that people want to speak about. But I was trying to understand kind of the mindset between the current state land zoning versus the future state, kind of making that cut over from, something that actually is contributing to, in my mind, contributing to the community, like the Harps, or, new Burger King that's going in. Those things, or restaurants and grocery stores, huge. Industrial that, you're looking at taxpayer, tax money is really the only benefit to the community. It's nothing that the rest of us are getting to share, and really
Well,
enjoy firsthand, I guess.
um,
Why my question of just, because our family moved out here 4 years ago, so we have not been here for
Yeah.
a whole life like so many people have. And we moved out here because it's a small town feel, because it's, we have land that we've always wanted. And so to go back to a situation where now we have a Walmart and a massive subdivision next door. And I know that from a city perspective, that's probably the ultimate dream for everyone. But for a lot of the folks here, they want it to stay small. They want to have that rural feel. They don't want tractor trailers and semi trucks and that sort of thing turn up and down the roads. And so it was just trying to understand, I get what you're saying. It's flat over there, so it's kind of moving itself to a warehouse type feel. And again, I don't want to take up a lot of time.
no,
on this
this is
subject.
really, this is, Holly, this is right to the point where we're going to be talking tonight. Is got this land out there that's open, and first money wins, kind of, sort of. Yeah, that sounds worse than it is, but I mean, when it gets right where the rubber meets the road, it's like who comes to town with the money that wants to do something, and if it fits our long range plan. Now, if we need to step back and revi- revise the whole long range plan, that's a hunk right there. But
No, I'm not
yeah,
suggesting that. It was just more to understand kind of the reasoning behind making that change. And then, obviously that's going to parlay itself into the discussion later. And so it was just because I just feel very strongly that sunflower ammunition plant is so many years out from ever being remediated and
yeah,
getting to a point where you could comfortably have park or any sort of business there and not have some concerns from an environmental fallout perspective. That I just didn't.
yeah.
I just didn't want that to be the anchor for justifying building up sunflower in that whole area further with more industrial businesses, because sunflower is right there, and they used to be light industrial
Yeah.
in World War II. I mean,
And it's not the only reason,
Okay.
okay?
Okay.
Yeah. Well, there was a statement in here. Oh man, that I wish I could find it right now. Dealing with sunflower is, we felt, unless if we sit back and just leave it a white blob on the map, then it we're not laying claim to it. We feel DeSoto is in the right position to service sunflower, to whatever might go in there. We're the government body that should take lead. And if we can encourage certain developments in there, at least show something like mixed use, um, I don't know that that means anything to whoever decides who annexes it, but we hope it does. So that was our goal, to be proactive, to show uses for some of the adjacent sunflower property. And yes, it's out, but I would hope this plan, if you look at this plan from 20 years ago, it's probably not going to look much different than it does now. I mean, except sunflower will be a white blob. You know, and I mean, going back to that one statement you made, in the public input that we did, we got a lot of people. It's a real common statement. I like things the way they are. And yeah, I like things the way they are too. I'm not sure if they'll wait for me or you or anybody, but yes, we have a wonderful community. I like it just like it is. Um, it's going to change sometime, uh, I think. So, anybody else want to kind of add in what I
This gets so
mumbled
complicated
through?
just in the idea behind it. You ever been to Edgerton, Kansas? It's about 10 square blocks. They have no industry. They have nothing. They're a poor little town until the intermodal moved in. They now have more money. They know what to do with, which is great. So they can start doing it. That's what all this boils down to. This is basically a wish list. And we try to figure out where things could be, but we need homes, apartments, business. If you don't have business, you don't have money coming in, you don't survive. So we generally decided that certain areas would probably be good for this, others for that. And that's why it kind of came the way it is. Nothing is written in stone. Anything on this map can change if enough emphasis or information is brought in and subjected to it. It can change. So this is what we're thinking for the next 20 years. Well, you know what that's like. Try to guess what you're going to be doing in 20 years from now.
Sure.
So
No, and I guess, in just one more spot, and I will sit down. Would it not make more sense for a lot of these industrial type businesses? We've got Jake's Fireworks and, the new apartments, the K10 apartment. We've got the whole swath over there next to Jake's Fireworks. I mean, that's directly off K10. I mean, that's super, super easy access. It's built for semis. Would it not make more sense for those types of businesses to be located there
if there's
versus
enough
squeeze them
room,
into rural?
if there's enough room, and I think this guy,
He's
this
10 acres.
No.
Or
10
something.
acres. There's not 10 acres down there in Commerce.
Is there not?
No, I don't think
Whole
there's a
swath
10-acre
next to
tract.
Jake? Okay.
But we are pushing when we get somebody in. That is one of the main places because that is our commerce industrial area that we're trying to get the people into because we do try to keep them going where we kind of would like to have them set up. But we have to be open to anybody and everything to look at it and see whether it's good for the town, good for the people, good for the company. We have to look at all of it. So,
And when you get more commercial properties in, it also helps the residential tax base as well.
mhm.
So that's one of the reasons why we want to have a good, healthy community is because it helps everybody.
Well, I'm sure I'll be here again later.
Holly, I appreciate you speaking. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Would you please come to the podium, state your name and address, and
Denise Everhart, 8910 Heroic
Is that microphone on? Is there a little green button right there?
yeah,
Green lights on.
On your comprehensive plan, and I have not read any of it. Do you have any, because you're talking about hilly areas for houses. The problem with hilly areas for houses is you have no utilities going to those areas. So the homeowners are gonna be out of pocket to install utilities. My neighbor next door to me, it's a vacant piece of farm property, he just paid he's paying over $40,000 to have a water main extended through my property to his property, and he hasn't even paid for a tap yet. Is that in your comprehensive plan to get utilities if you think that housing will go in these hilly areas instead of these areas that already have utilities along Sunflower and 95th? Is that in your plan?
well, no. I mean, let me retract that statement. Houses in hilly areas are quite nice.
Yeah.
Houses in flat areas are a lot less money.
Right.
But that doesn't mean. I mean, you can't do commercial in a hilly area. You try big parking lots and stuff like that. 50 foot of fill, 10-acre lot like this lot right here.
Well, you can.
Well,
It's expensive.
Water One did it. They dug into a hill and
yeah. I mean,
But yes, you can.
commercial ground is measured a lot of times in price per square foot, where residential ground, like maybe an acre, by the acre, and so when you get this flat land, highway access, light industrial, commercial zoning. I mean, I don't know that residential can afford that kind of land.
So to answer your question, yes, we look at that.
Yeah.
So we have a future water plan, we have a future sewer plan, we have all of this that ties together. So yes, it is kind of all incorporated together to make sure that it's
For main
accounted for.
lines.
Yes,
Yes, main lines. That's
Yes.
what I'm talking about.
correct, yeah.
Yeah.
We do have
And then-
expansion built in for
You
that.
also, you didn't even mention Lexington. I know she mentioned Commerce. Lexington also, as it goes out towards the plant, would be an ideal situation. And there is places out there that are rather large, still that are vacant. Along near Prospectors Point and stuff like that. There are some nice areas that you could build warehouses and things along there.
Provided the
And-
builder wanted to build out there.
Right, and,
Or provided they're for sale. Or
Yeah. Yeah.
well, money talks, as you
Yeah,
just said.
it does.
So, yes. Anyway, that's all I just.
Well, no, good point, Denise. Appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
live at 9130 Sunflower Road. I'm just one of those people who has lived on a flat piece of ground for over 40 years, and I have no intention of finding another place that's got hillsides or steep driveways. My driveway, I never slip out of it onto the road. I don't even have to step down to go get the mail. So I just would never look at a piece of property that some of these newer houses are being built on because I like that flat.
No, that's good. That's good. Thank you, Ms. Collier. Gallagher, I mean. Anybody else like to comment on the long-range comprehensive plan? Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Mike Jevons, live at 36270 West 95th Street. My main problem is I've been here 42 years, and every few years you seem to encroach and get closer on Aggie and residential living. Your industrial methods for zoning are just haphazard as far as I'm concerned, because you're trying to annex property outside the city limits to save money for this guy. Another reason the roads are not set up for this. Heavy traffic. My roads are right now getting misused because of the dump trucks that use from the rock quarry every day. Lumber One, at least twice a week with their lumber semis. Then you got the overhead door company down the street twice a week with a semi. And the road is not conditioned to do that. We have to stop with the semis on the road. We have to wait till he moves and wait for traffic to clear. Plus, I just can't see. In the beginning, when I moved out there, I had to have at least 10 acres of property to move in. And now it's all changing. Sorry, but after 42 years, I'm kind of a little cranky about that. Trying to live in privacy, and I guess it's encroaching on my living status. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Well, that's a good point. That's why a lot of people in the public input process for this long-range comprehensive plan said they like things the way they are. Please, whoever wants to get up and speak about the long-range comprehensive plan.
Mark Price, 8120 Wyandotte. I just have a couple questions. She mentioned something a minute ago about to have businesses come in, it lowers the property tax on residential property. Can you explain to me how that works when you give an abatement to a business to move into town? How is not charging taxes going to help the rest of the people in town that pay taxes when they're getting invited to move into town basically for a little or nothing?
We don't actually have anything to do with the abatement
We
process
don't.
as city council.
It's also a temporary abatement. It's not a permanent abatement. There's always a time limit on that abatement. So eventually those tax dollars will come into the community. And there will be tax dollars coming in for the whatever they sell or whatever product they have, whatever people buy. So that will help our
But
community
it's
as
still,
well.
they're giving something away that everybody else here has to pay. We all have to pay taxes in this town in order to live here.
Yeah.
And whoever invites them in and gives them free taxes, that's just not fair to the rest of us that have to pay it.
Well, it's not really free tax. They get an abatement for a time period.
For a time period.
Right, but they are bringing taxes in. And what the abatement does is it attracts companies to move into our town. And they pay maybe a lesser tax for a few years. And then everything goes to normal and they pay. But they're here paying something versus going to the next town down the road. So we do get money out of it. It may not be as much to start with, but it does catch up.
What attracts people to come here when really the only highway you have to offer is Ken Highway? people in Lenexa, Olathe, Edgerton, you have I-35, 435, 10 highway, you got so many highways
Mhm.
in that area.
That's
for
just that much
transportation.
more reason for us to offer an incentive to get them to come into
Yeah.
our community.
Plus, we have the open land that they don't have in those big towns. Towns have to attract companies. We don't go look. We actively do try to get companies to come in. We have a whole group of people, the whatever it's called. They go out and try to attract businesses to come here because we want the money, their taxes. To entice some of these companies, you have to give them some little benefits to start with to get them to move in. Like I said, once they get moved in, they do pay some, not as much as you might think, but they do pay some. But then after a time frame, they pay full taxes like everybody else. But the companies here, all the benefits the town gets from that company, from people buying groceries here, living here,
Employees,
what it, huh?
employees,
Employees,
residential.
it all adds. It's slow and it's kind of weird to explain, but it you have to do certain things as a city to attract business where you don't get the money to keep the city going.
But what keeps those people here after that time period?
They're established. A company's not going to move in because they get a 10-year tax abatement. Hudamaki is a let's use them for example. They were not going to move in here, take an abatement for 10 years, whatever it was, and at the end of 10 years, if they had to pay their taxes back, they're going to take your company and move it to another town? No. They're here. They're established. They're going to stay here. What?
Point of order, please. Shh. Okay.
Next question I have is, I was here a month ago downstairs at the meeting for Sunflower, and the water treatment plant is on the docket to be cleaned up next year. How is that conflict of those contractors coming up and down Sunflower Road, and then you're adding a trucking company with trucks going up and down a road that is minimally maintained, affect the people that are there?
Oh.
Sunflower.
Okay, Mark, we're trying to talk about the long-range comprehensive plan. And
Those are the only two questions I had. So.
okay, so your comment is the roadway is getting heavy usage. What are we going to do about it? Is that
Well, no, it's not getting heavy usage right at this moment.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about the long range plan of bringing businesses in there into that road, I mean, has there been any thought about road improvements?
Yes, we in the long range plan, and staff can explain it, but it's too cumbersome for right now. You can get a copy. I believe 95th Street is going to be a collector, and we have diagrams and cut sections on the width and the pavement thickness, and that doesn't happen until demand is ready. But it's in the long range plan that 95th Street will be improved. We're not going to leave it chip and seal, but I don't know, maybe staff wants to take a light stab at this on the roadway system for 95th, for example.
Yeah, well, so the question was in relation to the Corps of Engineers' efforts on the cleanup of that 80-acre parcel next door. We haven't had those discussions with them. Whatever their need to access the public road, we're going to expect them to mitigate whatever damage they do on that. I think they're prepared to do that. They do have that government easement road that they could utilize as an alternative way in there. I don't think there's a lot on that property that's going to need to be hauled out. So that I don't think they're going to have a whole lot of heavy truck traffic, but I can't say that for sure. It's really not a conversation we've had with them. That's a good point, though. We don't want them to just tearing up our road and leave it in a poor shape. So yeah, we need to close that loop with them.
All right, thank you, Mark. There was another person.
I was going to ask about taxes and the tax abatement. I think we covered it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. Please come up, state name and address.
Discussion points. Trevor Barth, 37070 West 95th. It was just mentioned earlier, it sounds like with the commission, 95th of Lexington is just bare, open, flat ground. I mean, the majority of it's residential. You drive down that street with occasional plots of land that need to be developed, like the one we're talking about here shortly. So a lot of people here live along 95th, so it's not just wide open land to be developed. And I'm pro business. I mean, we need more business in Soto. I'm for that. But down the residential street predominantly, with again these plots of agriculture in the middle, I just wanted to level set that this is not all open land, and there's a lot of housing, predominantly housing going down that street. That's all. Just common thing, so.
No, that's true.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else want to say something about the long-range comprehensive plan? It's very long range. Okay. Well, I sure wish people would have come to the public input sessions, but and a lot of them did, but we certainly didn't hear these kind of comments as we're hearing tonight. So I will close the public hearing on comprehensive plan update. Turn my copy upside down and come back to the commission members. What we'll do is approve this and send it on to city council. Anybody else have any more comments for?
I just had a question for Brad. I called earlier about
Yeah.
documenting that change of where we changed that from mixed use to light industrial. Were you able to track anything down on that to determine? Because the question came because the last documented future use document that I had was from the April 23rd meeting, and that area, you know, the light industrial was nowhere except for the lumber one slot, and everything else was shown as mixed use. And now, as this is presented now, that whole corridor now is light industrial and not mixed use. So.
And then Mike and I got together, we, because you remember when we did do these meetings, we went from here to the city council, they also made comments.
Okay.
And one of the comments from the council was, there's a lot of mixed use over on that area. And the discussion we had that evening was, maybe we should have some light industrial, a little more specific use, or reduce some of the light industrial, or, pardon me, reduce some of the mixed use that was in that area.
We can't hear you.
Pardon me, the council actually asked us to look at that area that Commissioner Manson is talking about that was heavily mixed use and come up with some additional ideas and thoughts that we might have, and challenged us to look at that and get some additional perspective. So we talked to several of the council members that came with light industrial, and also that area, that area that shows residential on this map up here as well was also mixed use, so that was actually changed from mixed use to light industrial and also residential areas red as well. So it's just, there were iterations back and forth, and you might not be obviously weren't privy to some of the council meeting discussions that we
Right.
had, but every
Okay.
chapter that you all reviewed then went to the city council for comment, and then it went into the final draft.
Got it.
It.
Okay. Thank you.
For the audience, can you delineate the area we're talking about with your cursor, Mike? That
Yeah, it's basically this corridor in here, I believe is what you're
Correct.
specifically this along the west side of Sunflower.
and lumber one and the water tower and
Now the water tower is still blue, but it's just everything on the west side there.
Yeah.
From K10 down to Clearview.
thank you. So if I can have,
I just have.
yes,
one
ma'am,
question.
please come up.
Linda Manson, 37045 West 95th Street. Can you tell me when that area was annexed?
What area?
The west side of Sunflower Road.
Yeah, the only thing west of Sunflower Road, except for Clearview, which is annexed in the 80s, is the subject parcel for the next public hearing. I believe that was annexed in April or May. It was this year.
After they made the purchase offer.
I think there was some sort of a purchase offer in mind. However, the that signed the annexation was still Ricky. It wasn't. I don't know that the property's been purchased yet. Okay, but yeah, at the time it was Ricky that annexed.
So that was only that sector, 10 acres was annexed at that time.
About 20, wasn't it?
It's a 25 acre tract.
Yeah.
That entire tract was annexed in July. Second
It was
meeting.
July,
And
okay.
just do that as a city, say,
Sure.
oh, we're gonna jump the road and annex this 20 acres.
Yeah.
Because somebody wants to build on that, and it's a warehouse for trucks.
Yeah, so the cities do have home rule authority to annex land with the consent of the owner, which is all we did in July. Sure. Okay, okay. So let me go down. There's this. Here's the legend. So the blue is public and semi-public. So that's on the water tower site and on that utility corridor. The light gray is light industrial, and the purple is mixed use. The yellow is residential. So that's where.
Hi, my name is Will Moneymaker.
I'm sorry, sir.
Will Moneymaker.
Thank you.
36715 West 95th Street. I think the overall long-term plan is necessary. I know it's a lot of work, and you guys put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. But when it comes to 95th Street, what I want to try and emphasize is that is a neighborhood. Now, we're all on property. Some of us have 10 acres, some of us have 20, some have 40, some have more than that, but it's a neighborhood. If there are, let's just say there's a logistics center down on Sunflower, not talking specifically.
Yeah.
But if there are semi trucks with 80,000 pounds of weight running on that road, and you're coming off of Edgerton and coming down 95th, right about where the Mansons are, there's a hill there. And I don't know, I've been here since '04. I'm sorry?
Right by Rowan.
Up past Rowan, there's that hill, but there's been a couple times where, you're in your lane and somebody isn't quite, it's not suited for semi trucks. I can assure you. And it will tear up that tar and gravel so fast it'll make your head spin.
Okay,
I guess that's theoretical logistics.
Yeah, let me add. A loaded tractor trailer can have a 20,000 pound axle weight. I worked at Yellow Freight for 10 years. And yes, they'll tear pavement up. That pavement's not designed for loaded tractor trailer traffic.
It is not.
It is not designed for it. You're right. But it's whatever it is, chip and seal, gravel, started as dirt, now gravel, chip and seal, it's progressed. It's not designed for tractor trailer, loaded tractor trailer traffic. But you got Lumber One using it. I mean, you said this. They don't go that way?
They do, but
Maybe once a month.
Okay, I'd like that. Well, point of order. Whoever just said that, if they come up and say that again. So my point is, it's not designed for it, and we're not intending. This owner is not intending to run loaded rigs over that. They're bringing, and we'll let them speak when we're talking. Go ahead.
Not to cut you off, the main thing we're looking at specifically at this moment is the long-term plan.
Yeah.
So if we can.
Once again, thanks for your
okay.
For your work on that long-term plan.
All right, Will. Thank you.
When I know you're going to submit it to the city council, and if there's things that a lot of people don't like about it, they'll go to the city council meeting. But I do want to say that 95th Street is a neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Right, the public hearing is closed. It was my mistake for letting people get back up. We're at a point now, we need a motion and a second to forward the long-term plan, comprehensive plan to city council.
Make a motion to forward the 2019 comprehensive plan to the council for their review.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Manson,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
McPherson,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. The motion carried.
Okay. The next item is, it's still not the one y'all are waiting for, but it's item B, the rezoning down in the bottoms next to this storage units.
These bottoms.
Carriage houses.
All right, thank you, Chairman. What you have before you is a rezoning for a 6.2 acre tract of land at 29150 West 53rd Street from rural. Sorry, but I have to address the commission.
Is the mic working?
Doesn't seem to be working.
Doesn't seem to be.
Or whether that will reach.
Check the connection down there on the side, Brad.
All right, I guess I can do it from here. The application is for a 6.2 acre tract of land at 29150 West 83rd Street, from rural suburban to C2 business general. Just run through some of the particulars of this property. It is right next to the carriage houses. It is on the west side of town on 83rd Street. Notices went out to the property owners, were sent by staff on August 1st. Public hearing was posted in the paper on and published on 7/30/2019, July 30th, about this meeting tonight. Staff has not heard any comments from any of the surrounding property owners regarding this application. The owner of the person that's interested in it has a contract on it, would like to open a landscape business, and has shown Mike and myself some preliminary layouts for what they'd like to accomplish here. But the first step is to get it rezoned from rural suburban to C2 commercial. Right now, the existing use is rural suburban. It is for single family homes, and nursing group homes are actually permitted by use. Education, bed and breakfast, religious uses are allowed by special use permit in this district. The intent of the RO zoning is to allow for large lot single family residences. The existing zoning map shows the tract to be rezoned. As you can see, the carriage houses are to the west. That is actually Cedar Creek that is to the east of the property, and then there's rural suburban homes on the other side. South is the Christmas Tree Farm or Cedar Valley Forest, and then property to the southwest is all agricultural use. On the other side to the north is the Union Pacific Railroad line, and then the Johnson County access point to Cedar Creek for the boat ramp. So it is, in essence, while it does have rural suburban on the east side, the tract is somewhat of an island. There's actually, because of Cedar Creek is between there's a large vegetative buffer between this tract and the residences on the east of this location. And you can see that on the surrounding land use, the aerial photo. As I had mentioned, there also is a commercial quarry on farther to the northwest, the Shawnee Indian Reservation. There's commercial uses there. So while this is the first standalone C2 commercial use in this area, there is some commercial activity in this area. So it's not like it's completely foreign to that use for this area. I'm going to run through the review of the zoning compatibility factors. So as I mentioned, the character of the neighborhood included but not limiting to zoning existing and approved land use. I just talked about the carriage houses and the Union Pacific Railroad tracks and Cedar Creek. Also, 83rd Street, as you know, is a busy arterial that leads through DeSoto and out to actually K10 through Lexington, and then K7 when you go farther east. The location is a developing area. We have had discussions with other people in this area. Now, nothing's materialized, but even Cedar Valley Forest has some plans for a wedding venue on their site. They have to apply for a special use permit, but they've indicated that is something that they're be looking at. The carriage house condominiums are continuing to grow. There's actually on your next meeting you'll have a final plat for another unit at that location, and then of course the area along Gardner Road north of this railroad tracks is Penny's, actually Sahara Sand. It's owned by Dave Penny, Gun Club, and then access to the Olathe, or pardon me, Johnson County boat ramp, and then also the city of Olathe has property up there where they actually disperse some of their lime from their water operations. Most of the favor, or actually all the favors that we went through and evaluated are positive. Some of the things I think are important to point out to you. The site was used as a commercial property in the past, but has been abandoned. It's really been unkept for several years. So that's something that we would like to see removed, taken down, and then this applicant also will have to submit a site plan as well. So at some point there will be a site plan, assuming that you approve the zoning for this location. That you'll also have another opportunity to review any kind of activity that happens at this location. Once again, we did meet with the applicant. They've strongly indicated that they're going to be moving their business. They want to have a nice operation. They will be paving parking lots. They'll follow all the screening regulations and things like that we require in the city of DeSoto. As far as utilities and infrastructure, there is no sanitary sewer at this site, so that will be something that will be handled by a private septic system. Other utilities are available at this site. The city of DeSoto has a water line along this location that they will be able to tap into. Public service accommodations, including police, fire, parks, schools, really see no change from the previous conditions at this location. As I had mentioned, parking will not be allowed on 83rd Street in any way, shape, or form. All parking on site must be paved for use by any of the customers. The environmental impact, the track does have a large portion of the site that's in the flood zone, where simply rezoning the property from RO to C2 won't have a significant impact or any impact, particularly on the flood zone or surrounding environment. The owner of the property will need to deal with that with permitting through the state of Kansas, and if they choose to fill and try to raise that, that is something that will be regulated by the state. We also do have a ground disturbance permit that they'll have to apply for as well. The site is not used, and redevelopment of this site is something that city staff highly desires. It's been a kind of an eyesore for many years and be benefit to DeSoto. To the extent to which the zoning amendment may detrimentally affect nearby properties, I mentioned I don't see any anticipated detrimental effects on nearby property. The carriage houses to the west won't be affected. Properties to the south really have, with the 83rd Street, won't be any material effect. The only property that you might be able to find have some effect would be the residential use, but it's on the once again it's on the other side of Cedar Creek, and there's a lot of thick brush on both sides of the creek. So the owner has very good buffering and protection from any kind of noise or uses that would be on this site. Overall, staff is recommending that you approve this rezoning, and based on the fact that it's a compatible use. There's a lot of C2 commercial type activity, even though that, like I said, there hasn't been a formal C2 zoning approved in this area, and it would ultimately end up in a viable business enterprise for this location and remove a dilapidated and sort of abandoned structure out in that location. So with that, I will stand for any questions that you all may have.
Good job, Brad. I agree. C2 is really a good use for that area down there, I think. It's pretty much isolated in the floodplain. I don't know what else it could be as you look down this list of recommended uses.
There was a landscape business there.
It was a
prior,
landscaping business.
What's the difference between what that was and what's coming in now?
Well,
They didn't
everything
have
that
to
we've
rezone then.
the landscape business. Well, once again, it's been abandoned, so it's been Hasn't been anybody there for, I don't know,
Yeah, it's been for
5,
sale.
10 years. So,
I actually figured the carriage houses would have allowed it and expanded that. But
yeah, that's kind of what we're all thinking. And then as we met with this individual, Kip Saxon, is pretty happy and really engaged in wanting to be a part of the DeSoto community. And we have indicated to him that we're not going to allow, he can't just rehab that building or try to come up with something to make that work. We've told him that really needs to go. He needs to submit a brand new site plan, go through the whole process with the planning commission before we'll move forward with anything. So once again, the rezoning is the first step, and you have to kind of look at the rezoning as a standalone item. Even though there is a site plan and we've got a good vibe from all these people out there, in this case, this applicant wants to do some really good things. But it is, do you want to have this C2 zoning out there and all the things that can happen in there?
is this going to be like a full blown retail landscape,
It's,
like
it's
Earl May
not.
kind of deal?
I don't
or-
understand. It's not to be a retail site. It's still. He's got more of a commercial client base.
Okay,
So it's not like not going to have retail sales particularly.
basically doing their landscaping and stuff.
Mhm.
Okay.
When I looked it up, I saw that they do a lot of Chick-fil-A and Casey's. One question I did have, Brad, though, when I looked it up, their website, and then they said they had a Facebook place site as well, and I looked that up, and it said, one of the posts that concerned me on 83rd Street, especially there, it said their post, October the 26th and 18, something to the effect of bear with the semis that are going to be lined up and down the road to deliver rock salt. Well, we can't have semis lined up and down the road on 83rd.
No, I'm kind of curious. I mean, I don't think. Well, once again, this gets back to the site plan and some of those activities. We do have the ability to control some of those types of uses, and even the truck traffic, but. I haven't. That has not been part of what they've talked to us about, and I don't know if we can allow storage of rock salt on. And once again, I haven't investigated that, but that's not been part of.
Because that's part of their business is
Right.
they do winter.
Winter snow removal.
Right.
Yeah.
But once again, that's going to be sort of a function of the site plan and what's allowed within this zoning district. I don't know that transportation and hauling rock salt is something that we can approve, but I haven't investigated.
How many acres is this?
It's 6 acres, 6.2
He's not
acres.
gonna be able to store a whole lot of salt. I mean, he might get 2 tractor trailer loads before he has covered half of his ground. It always part of the garden. Yeah, I see what you're saying. And they come, they show up all at once.
That was my only concern.
Yeah.
I'm anxious to get that
And then-
area developed.
I should go to the second to last page, the blue, and it just shows you in C2, the other things that could go in there. And I just like the overall feel of performing arts, nursing care facilities, blah, blah. I mean, so this zoning, if this guy goes bust, there's a lot of quality people that could use that same land.
I would think so.
What I'm pointing out. Okay. So, since this is any further comments before I open the public hearing? Okay, so I'm going to open the public hearing right now, and if there is anybody in the audience that would like to speak to the rezoning of it's a public hearing for item 5B, rezoning from an existing RUR, I guess, to
Well, this was actually DeSoto's rural suburban district.
rural suburban
What we'll
to
talk about next. is
C2.
RUR, it's from the counties.
Okay, rural
Zoning.
suburban RO to C2 business. 6.2 acre tract at 29150 West 83rd Street. So is there anybody in the audience tonight that would like to speak for or against this rezoning? Okay, hearing none. I will close the public hearing. What's everybody think? To me, it makes sense.
Seems appropriate.
Well, if we would recommend this to city council.
Mhm.
So do I have a motion and a second to recommend the rezoning to the city council?
We'll make a motion to propose this to be approval to the city council for final action on the property. What's the address?
29150 West 83rd.
I just read it right.
29150 West 83rd
Yeah.
Street. From suburban RO to C2.
A second.
That's okay. And staff, is there any? Okay, good. Are there any preclusions you want us to be aware of?
No, I covered it in the staff report and in the
All right.
presentation.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Manson,
Yes.
McPherson,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion carries.
Okay, everybody turn item 5B upside down. We're done with it. Item 5C, 83rd and Sunflower Road. Consider rezoning to M1. And if we could start with staff report, we will open the public hearing in a little bit, but first we're going to have staff report, and hopefully if you can't hear, say something. We'll do our best with the microphone system we have.
All right.
First thing you need to correct that is 95 and not 83rd.
Oh, yeah, I want to apologize for that. I did actually make that error on the agenda because the previous item was 83rd Street, and I just kind of kept it on 83rd because there is no 83rd, and Sunflower Road doesn't exist. So anyway, it is supposed to be 95th Street. So I do apologize for that. Anyway, there's an application from Sims Global Solutions, and we do have the applicant's representatives here tonight if they can also address the Planning Commission that prepared a lot of the documents for us tonight. We did meet with them several times here in City Hall. The proposed uses for warehousing, truck transportation, and of course the company management. These are uses that are all allowed within the M1 district, and of course with all zoning regulations. Such requests require the Planning Commission to hold a public hearing and then ultimately make a recommendation to the City Council for final action. We did receive the request in June, actually, from the change from RUR agriculture to M1 light industrial. And the reason it's RUR agricultural is when the property is annexed into the city of DeSoto, it carries the county zoning with it. So it still has Johnson County zoning and those criteria for it on that property. But now, since it's within the city of DeSoto, it is our legal purview to make any kind of changes to it as we see fit, as long as we follow our procedures for public hearing and open meetings. Property does have a contract pending with Sims Global Solutions, as we mentioned. The current DeSoto zoning map is on your page 2, which does show a variety of uses. Now, while we know the area is agricultural in nature, there is some commercial zoning. There's heavy industrial, the light industrial from number 1. Actually, the DeSoto water tower and water distribution building is also zoned light industrial. And across the highway to the north is the area along 91st Street that is also zoned light industrial. So there is a variety of zoning uses in the area, even though the land use themselves is still rural residential. We did send out notification letters to the owners within the 200 feet buffer within the city of DeSoto, and it's 1,000 feet for members of the county that are not within the city. So we did encompass a larger area for members that are not within the city of DeSoto, not within the city limits. We've also put up a sign for the advertising for the meeting. We did, and originally this was supposed to be on the agenda for July. However, there were some complications with some getting the right signatures on some legal papers, the annexation agreements and things like that. And so the applicant asked that we moved it to August date. We did send out letters to the same members that we were notified for the public hearing that we were moving it to now the 27th, which is tonight. I have heard and gotten several calls from nearby landowners. Their conversations were all cordial in nature, very inquisitive, wanting to know about truck traffic, some of the issues that you've already heard tonight. Certainly on the minds of the residents, especially everyone who is primarily west of Sunflower Road. I want to review some of the general zoning requirements. As I had mentioned, it is zoned RUR agriculture under Johnson County's zoning, and RUR is intended for the preservation and protection of rural areas. So that is a very clear statement in Johnson County's zoning manual. The proposed use for within DeSoto is as defined as the intent of this district is to permit uses that are not obnoxious due to appearance, noise, emissions, or odor that do not require intensive land coverage and that can be compatibly developed with adjacent districts through site plan review. We do have several areas within DeSoto. The Hutamaki building is light industrial. The Merck campus is also light industrial, and the Rarick Pacific on Commerce Drive. Those properties over there are all light industrial, so that kind of just gets you what light industrial is and how it relates to the areas which are around it. As I mentioned, and as you've heard tonight, the existing land use is rural residential, as you can see in the aerial photo. Other than the DeSoto water tower, there's just houses and agricultural properties at this location at this particular time. The future land use map, and we will talk a little bit more about the current comp plan, because it's right now the comp plan that was adopted 20 years ago is still the current plan until the council adopts this new one, which you just recommended. So we're actually going to talk a little bit about both. We had mentioned here's the tract that's to be rezoned. It is light industrial. You can see the purple areas to the east are mixed use, and then south is also some light industrial with residential farther to the west. And then across on K10, we also show mixed use. The reddish orange area is commercial development. And that's from the 2019 comprehensive plan. It'll be to the city council on this next meeting, September 5th. One thing that I do want to stress to you that as city staff and meeting with the client and talking with landowners and putting together our package tonight, that Mike and I did. I mean, we did make a lot of difficult decisions and discussions about how we wanted to present this information. And the comments from the residents are well taken. It is a rural area, and this is sort of the classic case where a city is starting to grow and butt up against rural uses. And unfortunately, it's something that's been repeated time and time again, especially here in Johnson County, which is a very robust and growing economic location. DeSoto is now sort of a fringe or an edge suburban area, and these things are probably going to start coming up more and more as we start to grow and expand. So, just with that precursor nature, first of all, the character of the neighborhood including but not limited to the zoning existing and improved land use, platting, density, residential, natural features, and open space. As we've talked, this area is zoned rural suburban. It's been this way for a long time. North of the tract is K10 Highway, and on the other side of that is rural suburban uses. To the west is all rural suburban, and then when you go farther east, that's when you get into the zoning categories for DeSoto, which I said earlier, a little bit of a mixed bag of some zoning that was approved when those tracts came into DeSoto, but they are, well, they might have a commercial zoning, or actually there's actually some heavy industrial over there. It's still rural and urban, or pardon me, rural and agricultural type use. While the proposed M1 zoning district is not harmonious with several of the surrounding land uses, it is consistent with the city's long-term plans for the area. Now, that being said, our we just found this as a neutral. There wasn't a pro or a con. It is sort of what it is at this location. Compatibility of the proposed zoning and uses permitted therein with the zoning and the uses of nearby properties. This is where we look strictly, or not strictly, but primarily at the zoning map, the current zoning map. And when you look at the current zoning map, things that we're talking about, our future land use plan, we found that this was compatible with the mixed uses. There is, like I said, there's the lumber one, which is light industrial. The city water tower is light industrial. So there's a property, as I mentioned, on the other side of K10, which is light industrial. There's some heavy industrial nearby and commercial uses as well. So as far as compatibility with the proposed zoning, not the land use, but the proposed zoning, we found that to be positive. Suitability of the uses to which the property has been restricted under its existing zoning. It hasn't had any restrictions. As you know, it's just been recently annexed, so there's really no long-term basis that we can say that the existing zoning was any kind of restricted use. So that was kind of a positive. Length of time the properties remained vacant as zoned. Once again, it has been recently, within the last couple of months, been annexed into the city of DeSoto. So that one is a neutral as far as the length of time. We just don't have enough to really gear whether or not the zoning has been a detriment.
Could we back up for just a second?
Sure.
Back in C, under the suitability for use which the property has been restricted, the very last line you've got, this tract could not be put to use under the existing M1 zoning category.
Yeah, that M1, here's my note, Johnny, that M1 should be removed.
I thought maybe I missed something.
No, you actually caught it. So, but that does need to be removed from the staff report, and I will correct that. To the extent that there is a need within the community for the uses allowed by the proposed zoning, we also found this neutral. While there isn't a specific need, I mean, for instance, the Harps, when that was rezoned and that property, I mean, there was a specific need that we could point to. There's not a specific need within the city of DeSoto for this type of use, other than we had some of this discussion about the general benefit of additional property tax and job growth. Those are certainly positive things, but there's no specific need that we need to have this or something along the lines. And I mentioned the Harps because that's a good visual on how you can say, yeah, there is a specific need. In this case, we couldn't really particularly find one. At this point, I'm going to let Mike talk about the public utilities and the transportation portion of the
Right.
Of the report.
Yeah. Thanks, Brad. One of the things I like to kind of remind really everybody in the room when we're looking at a rezoning, especially when we have at the same meeting we have a site plan for a particular development, and that's been a lot of discussion. When we're talking about a rezoning, if this property does carry a different zoning district than it does today, that carries with it certain land rights. And so we really need to be thinking about all of the uses that might be allowed under the proposed zoning district when we're thinking about character of the neighborhood and compatibility with zoning and utilities and roads. So I like to kind of try and divorce myself of the applicant in the room, or maybe the site plan that's on the next on the agenda, and try to think about all those uses. And in terms of impact to infrastructure, water, sewer, gas, fire, police, roads, the M1 zoning category is kind of tough because some uses that are allowed in M1 don't have hardly any water use at all. Some uses don't have hardly any traffic, but some are very intense from a traffic standpoint, very intense from a water usage. So it's kind of under that scenario where you try to kind of make your best judgment about the compatibility of the uses. So
yeah, I just want to point out I did include that in your packet, the M1, and you can see all the uses. The P's are actually permitted under the M1, and then the S's would require a special use permit, and if it's blank, then it is not allowed.
What's the little yellow lines for?
That was just to highlight it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Just curious.
It's kind of a pain.
I was trying to figure out if that was considered the blank area or whether that was something that we were supposed to be.
So
don't know till you ask.
In the utility review, I started with sewers, and as we talked about a little bit, there aren't any public sewers available to this area. So any development that happens here in the near term is going to have to be served with an on-site septic system, on-site sewage disposal. A lot of uses allowed in the M1 district are completely fine on a septic system. You know, it might be a big warehouse with one office and 2 people working there. That's totally fine. Some uses in M1, like food production, would be completely uh, incompatible unless you had sewers. So I talk in the staff report that there's no sewers, but it is in the area like we just looked at with our comprehensive plan. This is an area that flows toward the city's existing collection system. And in fact, in our long range plan, in our ultimate future land use plan, this will be served with sewer at some point in the future by the city of DeSoto. And in fact, in next year's capital improvement, we have funding to design a sewer that would, a project that would get sewers to the intersection of Lexington and 95th, which is downhill from this property. So that's funded in the CIP for design next year. It may roll into construction the following year, and kind of set up the scenario where future sewers may be available. We're still half a mile from this place, but that's a step in that direction. There's also, we've had discussions within the utility corridor that runs just parallels Sunflower Road to the east. The Army constructed a 12-inch sanitary sewer that runs all the way to the Kansas River, runs within a couple hundred feet of our sewer plant. We're in discussions with the Sunflower Redevelopment Group, who now owns that corridor and that infrastructure, to possibly purchase that sewer line and make it available for our use for future service in the area. But those aren't, we're just starting discussions with them. Those are long term. From a sewer standpoint, I think if you want to look at rezoning today, you have to assume that it's not going to be there. That if a use comes in tomorrow, they're going to have to take care of their own sewer.
So would it be safe to say 5 to 10 years, possibly?
Well, like I said, so the project that I alluded to that we're funding design of will get, so I've got up on this is the future sewer map from our comp plan. And it's this green line that would stop here at Lexington and 95th. That could set the stage for something that continues west. But that looks pretty likely that'll happen within 2 years. So sewer will be here within 2 years. The immediate, I think, would be to continue down Lexington Avenue to serve some of those properties. But this corridor thing here, I can't. I couldn't give you a timeline. We're just negotiating. I mean, it's not even for sale right now. So that's kind of where we are with that. On the water, we have this site is actually in the water service territory of Rural Water 7. And we've been in discussions with them in the last 12 to 18 months about establishing future water service territory, water service boundaries for this area here that we've been talking about, primarily south of K10 and along and north of 103rd Street. Preliminarily, it looks like this property is going to remain in the service territory of Rural District 7. So we won't serve it, although our water tower is within 50 feet or 100 feet of the corner of this property. Regardless, Rule 7 does have a 12-inch water main that runs east and west along 95th Street. We have a 12-inch water main that comes from our water tower and runs north up Sunflower Road to 91st Street. We don't know yet the capacity of Rule 7's water main. They're still running some tests, doing some modeling on that. We have got confirmation that they could serve a domestic need there. So, an office use, for drinking water, for use in the bathrooms. It's the fire flow demand of a big warehouse facility that they may have trouble meeting the fire flow demand on a development on this property. But the working relationship is good between us and them. And I think it's likely that if Rule 7 couldn't meet a fire demand, that the fire demand could be provided by DeSoto. they'd still be a Rule 7 customer. We'd just build a line to put a fire hydrant in the air. So water is available. It's just kind of if it's a boundary issue between DeSoto and Rule 7. So I think the water thing is generally a positive in favor of a higher use there. The other utilities, I didn't go into a great amount of detail, but electric service is available along 95th Street. Fire and police wouldn't change. Fire's Northwest Consolidated, police Johns County Sheriff, whether it's in the city or not, or it is in the city. So because of the sewer issue, really mostly because of the sewer issue, some uses wouldn't be compatible there. Some uses, if we got a site plan for a pickle jarring factory that needs a whole bunch of, generates a lot of wastewater, we'd have to turn that down on a utility basis. So for that reason, the overall finding on the utilities is neutral. It's not really in favor of granting, or it's not really directly opposed granting the requested change.
Well, just a curious point on a lateral field. Like when I did my house, they do it by head count and bedroom. I don't know how many head count this.
Yeah, there's lots of ways you can design those. Yeah. In a residential setting, they do it maybe by fixtures or number of bedrooms. A lot of times in a commercial setting, they'll do it by number of fixtures, faucets, toilets, or shower facilities that are in the building to get a load rating.
It's a burden on the applicant,
on
the developer.
It would be completely a developer paid and designed. And our so we did one recently for actually at Cedar Valley Forest for a gathering venue, and that has a lot of big load, but really only once or twice a week maybe. So there's some aerated systems, some partial treatment systems that can be installed that our building department is very comfortable with, and they work well. They're more expensive, like you said. The applicant's going to have to bear that cost, but it is doable. And with 25 acres, there's plenty of land. We have done soil tests out there in terms of the suitability for a septic lateral field, and the soils are good. They can accept a properly designed system.
Did you just say 25 acres?
Wasn't it? What?
Well, the site is 25 acres now. Actually, once again, I don't want to talk about the site plan too much, but it's going to be a little less than half of that. Is what they're talking about building out.
Well,
rezoning is 25.
Yeah,
the rezoning is 25. That Oklahoma shape. Oklahoma turns sideways.
No, it's kind of a
square.
That one rectangle is 25.
Oh no, that's the.
I didn't do that. Sorry.
Page 3 of the document shows you.
That is.
It's these two.
95th Street up. That's 25.
I drove by it today. It's a pretty good sized chunk of land.
21 maybe. 22.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll have to check where.
19.8, and then this tract up here is 1.8.
All right.
So is that?
Well, so this little rectangle here is all we're talking about.
That's
for the
correct.
sewer, this laterals. I mean, that's obviously what it says. I thought it was just 10 acres, but it's 20 some.
25.
25. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So utilities then overall are
Yeah.
findings neutral. Any more questions on utilities?
No.
Okay. So then the next item to look at is the suitability of the road network that's influenced by the rezoning. Again, the applicant did submit a traffic study that is specific to his own site plan, but again, we need to look at all the uses that could be involved there. Important to understand that 91st Street is currently being extended to Sunflower Road. To an urban collector standard, so nice wide 36-foot wide street, bike lanes, curb and gutter, sidewalks both sides. That project should be done by the end of September. It might go a little bit longer than that, but we do expect that 91st Street will be through to Sunflower before any type of development could, take place on the subject track. But still, the road network is a rural section road, like we've heard. 95th Street is narrower than a typical urban standard. There's no curbs. There's no, we have open ditch sections. Sunflower Road is the same way. They're in decent shape, for the rural section roads that they are. But it's clear. I don't know that really anybody could give a reasonable argument that says that those roads wouldn't be negatively impacted by a big truckload. Now the city could throw up no trucks on 95th Street. We could throw up no truck signs on Sunflower south of 95th Street, but still there would be a section of Sunflower Road, even if they come down the new 91st Street and turn south to this property. There will be quarter mile, half mile on Sunflower Road that really no way around any sort of significant truckload would impact that road.
But I think this is an important point. Then 91st could be the dictated.
Well, so it is an important point because with a zoning only, we can't put conditions on a zoning change. So we can't say, yes, you can have M1, but everybody's got to use the new 91st Street Sunflower Road. We can't do that. What we can do as a city under home rule authority is restrict truck routes on 95th or on a portion of Sunflower, so that you could mitigate some future condition where we have a lot of truck traffic. But you wouldn't likely legally be able to restrict all trucks to this site. If you zone it light industrial and then don't allow any trucks there, I think you're treading pretty lightly on that property owner's right. So, with that being said, and with the potential that our applicant here tonight doesn't own this site forever, and that some other company comes in and does have a big traffic load, it does stand has a good potential of deteriorating Sunflower Road, causing higher maintenance costs for the city. Probably would have to go in and repave that at some point. So it would be really hard to argue that the surrounding road network is capable of handling any and all possible uses that could be allowed under M1. And really, for that reason, the finding with the road network is negative. It would not support the zoning change. Again, kind of its background, sort of inserting this into the middle of the staff report, but these matters to be considered. They're not like a scorecard to keep, pros and cons, and you don't weigh them up at the end and say yes or no. Any one of these factors could be enough to sway your decision one way or another. But these are factors that were actually set out by Kansas State Supreme Court, and they're in every city's, every municipality's, every county's zoning regulations. That these are factors that you should consider when you're making these decisions.
With the improvements on 91st Street on the Sunflower Road extension going through, this probably wasn't thought about during the discussions for the roundabout at the Lexington and 91st end of it. Say this ends up being a giant truck operation, with the school buses and the school traffic and the trucks going through.
Yeah. So the roundabout issue, again, next year's CIP has funds to design that roundabout, and it will be designed for heavy trucks. Geometrically, the pavement thickness, it will be designed so that the trucks could navigate that
with an adequate. Because I've seen several. There's one south of Garnett on 169 that they put a roundabout in through there. Didn't design it properly. The trucks go straight through it. It used to have a big tall curb, and they went and took the big tall curb out and put the little rounded so that the trucks wouldn't make a big mess.
Yeah. Well, they can certainly be designed incorrectly. Yeah, but the intent is at that roundabout, that it'll be capable of handling any legal truck, any truck that's legal to be on the road, will be able to pass through that intersection.
We also have the individuals working at whatever may be at this spot in
That's
their
right.
private cars. You can't control them at all, so they can be going any which way that they need to. So that's going to
That's
increase the
also
traffic
true.
quite a bit.
That's
yeah.
also true. If you fill up the whole 20 acres with some massive call center or something, and they've got 2,000, 4,000 employees out there every day, that'd be a big deal.
Yeah.
All right, any additional questions for Mike? 'Cause I'm going to move on to, got a few other items on this.
Okay.
We've got environmental impacts that typically we look at our stormwater runoff, water pollution, air pollution, noise pollution, excessive nighttime lighting, or environmental harm. We do have within our city code stormwater detention within the facility that no runoff greater than what exists today as part of a permitting process. So that will be mitigated through our current city code erosion control. As I mentioned, also we do have a land disturbance permit. So erosion control, mitigation, silt fencing, straw bales, all sorts of things like that to keep soil on the property will be required as well. Photometrics are also something that we require, and actually part of the site plan does have a photometric plan, but is also something that we do require within the zoning category for any type of development. Our noise limits in place that we have is 55 dBA from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. and overnight from 10 p.m. Actually from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Actually, it just drops down to 50 dBA. So we do have those protections built into our zoning code. Those things that certainly residents care about, but things that over the course of time that we've built up and changed and made sure are accurate and reflect the values of DeSoto. So within that is a positive favor in rezoning request. We feel like we can adequately mitigate all the potential uses within the M1 category based upon our current city code. Getting to the economic development issues, once again, we've talked about the proposed economic activity for DeSoto. Certainly, it's better to have businesses, employees, people going to lunch, people purchasing gas, people going to harps. However, with that, there are some negative connotations as well. But from the pure economic value of looking at an M1 zoning district versus a RUR, there's certainly more potential for economic activity under an M1 zoning category. The extent which the zoning amendment may detrimentally affect nearby properties, as we've talked about, the additional surface vehicle traffic, the road network is not quite, it is not ready quite in this manner for all the uses potentially within the M1 district. There also could be some noise and lighting issues, detrimental side effects, but once again, our city code does require all those items to be mitigated. We do require photometric plans, buffering, screening, berming, some of the environmental things that I just mentioned. So we feel like we can, any of the detrimental effects can be mitigated through our zoning code. Relative gain to the public health, safety, and welfare from denying this rezoning applications compared to the hardship imposed upon the rezoning applicant from such denial. Staff determined that there'd be little to gain for the citizens of DeSoto in general for denying this request. But once again, when we talked about is there a specific need that's just sort of burning within the city of DeSoto as well, there isn't. But when you just look at that one category, I felt that was a positive for the public health, safety, and welfare for denying it, for not allowing it. Anyway, consistent with the comprehensive plans, the utility plans that Mike and I talked about, capital improvements, some of the things that we're doing as far as roundabout, improving 91st Street. We've got this is where we talked about our current land use map from the current plan, because the plan you just recommended has not formally been adopted by the council. So this is really the plan that I wanted to put both of these in here so you could look at them. This area does show mixed use, as Commissioner Manson brought up, and then this is what we had up previously, and then it was changed through discussions with city council as far as having a lot of mixed use. They want to have some more specific uses, and that's where the light industrial came into play. So we do have in the 2007 plan mixed use in this area. And then, of course, as we mentioned earlier, we talked about the light industrial on this proposed track for the 2019 plan. So we're really kind of in a strange place. We're in a tweener situation. We've got a plan that we've been working on for nearly 18 months, but it's not formally approved yet by the city council. So we do need to at least be cognizant of the previous plan that has been adopted by the city of DeSoto. So one of the things that I want to just read this last statement. The fact that the new plan indicates light industrial rather than mixed use for this property is an indicative of a more focused intent for this area to transition from rural residential to agricultural uses to non-residentials over time. The intent of this transition has been consistently reflected by the city's long-term land use and utility planning for the last 20 years. So while we've talked about the sunflower and the development and all these things that are going on over 20 years, the city of DeSoto has looked at this area as part of their urban growth area. Well, nothing has particularly happened until recently. Number one was a smaller item. The water towers was an item, but this is kind of one of the first sort of bigger dominoes to come up in this area and along these lines that the city of DeSoto has had this area in its sights for quite a while as far as ultimate urban growth. You have to remember, even back when the sunflower was operating, it was a heavy industrial use area, flat ground, which was perfect for what the Army needed to make ammunition. So it's kind of when you have to sort of keep it all in context as far as who's best able to serve this area, past uses, present plans, and then our sort of future ideas of what could happen. It's all part of our urban growth area. Ultimately, City of DeSoto staff recommends approval of this rezoning request. We don't have the option to say we kind of like it or we prefer. It's either a thumbs up or a thumbs down with a recommendation to you at the Planning Commission, and ultimately you have to make the same recommendation to the City Council. One thing I did want to point out was there is a valid protest petition that has been signed and submitted to the city staff, so we do have that, which does require a supermajority of the City Council to approve this type of rezoning request. So I just want to make you aware of that. And our biggest reason for approving or recommending approval to you all is the future land use plan that we just talked about. Shows light industrial. Our long-term city growth has been validated by moving into this area. The CIP is talking about putting sewers, and we are talking about a road network. As you mentioned, Richard, 95th Street is at some point could be a collector, maybe even an arterial. And east of Gill Creek, 95th Street is a wide road with paved shoulders. So that's probably something that ultimately is going to be moving to the west on 95th at some point as well. So with that, I will stand for any of your questions, but I've received a long staff report tonight, and I'm sure
I'll start. This could be any number of uses
that is
in
correct.
the M1.
Yeah, while we're kind of focusing on the Sims development, you really have to look at all the potential uses within the M1 category and the suitability for that.
Are there potential, in your opinion, several potential uses that wouldn't require road improvements that would do well here?
Well, I think as Mike mentioned, you could have a warehouse that just shuffled things around and had smaller parts, didn't need heavy trucks, only had maybe 3 or 4 employees, which would be a light industrial use, but really wouldn't have very heavy impact. But you could also have a food processing plant, which are very heavy water users. They need to really have treated sanitary sewer, which couldn't operate in this area. So there are uses within the M1 category that absolutely could work in this site. There are some in the M1 category that would not feel comfortable.
Some that
Right.
would, some that wouldn't.
Correct.
And I guess the awkward spot we're put in is that those that wouldn't, I mean, let's say this current developer decides we approve this zoning.
Mhm.
This current developer decides, well, they're not going to build there because something, and then somebody's got a C2 hunk of ground to sell.
Or M1.
M1.
Or excuse me, M1. Yeah, I was back on the other zoning. Somebody's got an M1 for sale,
Mhm.
but we can't support. We can only easily support a third of the.
Right, but also if there was a use that we didn't think was going to work, I mean they've got that site plan approval process, and we don't have to allow something that just isn't physically going to work. If they need to have treated sanitary sewer that a septic system cannot provide, then we can't do it.
Yeah.
So there are uses in here that probably are not applicable, even though they do fall within our zoning category under M1.
Okay. What I'd like to do is get away from staff right now, ask the applicant to speak and rezoning applicant. And unless anybody else, at this point in time, I'd like to get staff back up, but if you have any further questions for staff, and if we could have the applicant please come and give name and address and tell us your plans.
Hi, my name is Justin Bodenhausen, and I'm at 16341 West 171st Street, Olathe, Kansas, 66062. And I'm the CFO of Sims Global Solutions, and I think there is a little bit of confusion on the operations of Sims Global Solutions. There's really three different divisions within the company. So our bread and butter, kind of the main focus is we're a freight broker, which means it's a software technology that we use to arrange the freight between a shipper and a trucking company or a carrier. So we utilize a software. So we're just a broker, a middle person. So for example, if a company needed a shipment from Dallas to Chicago, they would utilize our software to find all the carriers that could support that shipment, and we have operations management to help make sure that shipment comes in on time. So we're a broker, and that's our bread and butter. So on that side of the business, I would look at that more as a technology company rather than a trucking company, right? However, you're probably wondering why we have this warehouse attached to the office space. So the office is all freight brokerage. So it's technology, software. The warehouse, over the years, we've had a few of our key customers ask us for, can you handle some warehousing? And we're a service-based company. And we have a few key customers too that we want to help. So right now we don't have the warehouse space, but we thought we would just build this into the plan at this point and service those key customers. So we have the freight brokerage and then the warehousing, and the other side is we have two trucks. So we're not an asset-based trucking company. We have two trucks. One is a long haul, over the road trucking trucker, and he's out 3 to 4 weeks at a time. And so he leaves, let's say, first of the month. He's back on the 20th, and he's sitting for a week or two, and he's back out on the road again. So that's one truck. And then the other truck is out doing more Midwest trips. So he's out 2 to 3 days at a time, comes back for a day or two. And so that's kind of where we sit right now with the trucking side, warehouse, and the Sims kind of the freight brokerage. So hopefully that gives you a good overview of. Yeah.
Could you explain it a little bit?
You have two motor freight tractor trailers.
Yeah.
You have two, but you had like parking for 8 in the back or something.
Yeah. So
How
that
do you?
so that was kind of drawn to understand the scale of the parking lot, and we have trailers too. So there's two trucks right now, and then several trailers. But um, so and the long term plan is not to grow the trucking side of the business. Um, so yeah, so I think the site plan probably showed all these lots, but that was just going to understand the scale, and maybe Brad can talk about that a little bit on the site plan. But
you were talking about some of your customers have something trucked in. How many trucks are going to be coming in that not owned by you? Because I know you guys don't own trucks,
yeah.
but you have a lot of spaces marked there. How much traffic are you going to thinking about that's going to come in via yellow freight, whoever it might be, to your warehouse there?
Yeah, so we did a traffic study, and based off of so many truck shipments per day, and right now we're not scaling that business. We're planning on 12,500 square feet of warehouse. Part of that is to kind of help maintenance on the two trucks, and then part of that is also a workout facility within that warehouse, and then the rest um, uh, is storage. So
Well, it's kind of What's kind of intermingled here is you're asking for a rezoning, and you have a plan you want approved, and before we get a good feel for the rezoning, we almost need to know what your plan, and that's what you're telling us what your plan is.
Yeah.
And your plan is
plan is to grow the freight brokerage business as much as possible, and that's the office employees. And so that's where we have 8,000 square feet on the first floor, and the 8,000 square feet, or 8 to 9,000 square feet on the first and second floor. So that's where we're going to house the operations of the brokerage, the software platform. But we feel like there's a need to service some customers in the warehousing as well.
So you're basically planning on your bread and butter being like C.H. Robinson or Freight Quote?
Yeah, I mean, and e-shipping or Ryan Transportation. Yep.
But you still got approximately 10,000 square feet of warehouse space that you're going to build. That if you weren't anticipating that, you probably wouldn't be building that because it'd be wasted
so
money.
we feel like there's a need there, and so there could be some additional truck. There will be some additional truck traffic from not our vehicles. Yeah.
so when these two vehicles, I think you said one was national, one was Midway or something.
Yeah.
Will they be coming in loaded 20,000 pound axle weights or maybe or?
Yeah, maybe. It depends on the load and where it's going and where it's beginning. So it could store a shipment for a day and then head out to the West Coast that is.
And employee headcount in the office part? Just curious.
Yeah, so right now 15, and we would love to add 10 a year for the next 5 years. So ideally get up to 70, 75 in 5 to 6 years. But growth is, recruiting is our biggest challenge right now on getting top talent, and so that's our goal, and we'd like to meet that. So we're kind of planning for that growth. We had a discussion with the city on that growth, and we think,
Richard, if I would, we do need to kind of focus on the zoning. I know it's hard to not want to get into the specifics of the business, but we do need to look at all the uses within the M1 that are actually before you. So
Okay. Well,
hard to separate all that.
To explain your business and summarize it in a short statement.
Yeah.
How you're not going to impact the neighbors as best you can.
So how we're not going to impact the neighbors? We like the land because it has great visibility to K10, and it's from a recruiting and branding standpoint, we like that. But also we like the city of DeSoto. So the owner grew up in Newton, Kansas. I grew up in Northwest Missouri in a small town, and we pride ourselves on service and people, and we think there's no better service than small town service. So we like the community here, and we would love to create jobs for the community.
Okay. Thank you, Justin. Anybody else have any questions for Justin? Okay. Well, yeah, Brad brings up a good point. He has included in the back of the packet. There's a chart somewhere. Yes. In about the middle, it's got the blue headers across the top. He drew the yellow highlighter down the permitted uses. And this is where I was headed a while ago that, maybe I'm just guessing, maybe a third of these would be acceptable, in this current condition. Some of them wouldn't be. I guess that's where, and it kind of boils down to it sound to me like the sewer system is not there yet, but that burden is on the applicant to take care of the sewer system, make it work, because they have to get it approved by the governing bodies. The water is available, between R7 and the city. Gas, water, electricity. I mean, they're all available. So I guess what it kind of gets down, one of the things it gets down to is the roadway system. And 91st Street would certainly be a big improvement. So I don't know, like wholesale trade. I mean, does anybody have any thoughts on any of these? I mean, like petroleum products is permitted. Metal and materials, motor vehicle repair, motor vehicle parts. I mean, this is a comprehensive list.
Yeah, you got metal and mineral, you got chemical and allied products, which
the motor vehicle parts right there, you're looking at 20, 30, 40 trucks a day. May not be tractor trailers,
yeah,
but you're going to have dozens and dozens of trucks.
Industrial machinery, equipment and leasing, mini warehouses. Okay, yeah, that'd be pretty tame. We have that already in the neighborhood. Automotive equipment rental, leasing.
If this didn't go through, you have somebody that could possibly.
I mean, the professionals.
One thing I see is this is for the whole 25-acre tract. They're proposing to build on like 10 acres.
Right.
So there are at least 15 acres available that they could potentially want to sell.
Well,
if it's M1, then any one of these buildings could be built in that spot.
And should this not go through or not make it, who's to know what's coming in next?
Right.
Yeah, I know. Like there's a lot. I mean, so much stuff that makes your head swim.
A lot of
variables.
I guess
maybe the point is the road system doesn't support it. I don't know if that's a true statement. I mean, 100% true statement. It doesn't support all these uses. This is just my opinion.
Right now, some of those roads out there barely support the people that are living on the road.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So the road system's not supported. The infrastructure, water lines, they're already going to have to tap the city water line, tap the rural water line.
And that's iffy.
And there's no sewers.
7.
So.
Oh, it's not either. 7 would love to sell water. I'm serious. 7 love.
Well, according to this, there's a statement in here about there's not an agreement as of this time with them. So
well, there's no request to them either.
Yeah. So if there's any confusion, Rule 7, I think you're right. We'd be happy to sell them water. We don't know
I'm sure.
if they have the capacity for the fire flow.
Right.
But we do. And so the question would be, if an applicant comes in and needs fire flow, Rule 7 can't give it to them. We're adjacent to the side of the well. That's a possibility for the water.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to give the impression that I thought that because of some legal boundary that it was a problem.
No, I didn't think it was a problem. I just something that had not been decided or agreed upon at this point.
True.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Well, my point was everything else can probably work out, but the roadway system is a little awkward, I guess. And I heard, unless anybody else has, I mean, we can read through these one by one, but it doesn't do much good. I mean, when you read two or three that don't fit, you know, that kind of covers it right there.
I'm kind of people.
And if this was
anxious to hear from them.
if this was a special use permit where coming in for one use, and,
Yeah, but it's not,
I
so.
wouldn't, but it's not. But if it were, then yeah, you could focus in.
It's here with
So
the
it
public.
really, it's really it's awkward. Put it that way. And there's going to be some, in my opinion, there's going to be some burden on the city or burden on somebody to make this a full-fledged M1. You know. So before we start the public input portion, does anybody else have anything they want to say, including Brad and Mike? Any? Whatever you say, we'll hold it against you. No. Okay. Okay. Well, I would like to open the public hearing, and before, are you the applicant?
No.
You're a public hearing person.
Yes.
All right. What I'm going to do is we have a lot of people here tonight. If you do a 3-minute time limit, or if it's important, somebody can give their time to somebody else, and try to be what's the word?
Concise.
We don't need to hear the same thing over and over and over. However, I don't want to tell you what to say. You know, we'll do this signal if you're the 17th person saying the same thing. You'll see me do this.
That's part of our job.
Yeah, that's it. That's official sign language.
Part of our job is to hear what they've got to say.
And well, yeah, you can.
Same thing over.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and when you do speak, come to the podium, name and address, and I think the small speaker, unfortunately, is the one you're going to have to
use this
speak
one here
into.
by me.
So, if I will open the public hearing portion of the M1 rezoning request, and whoever wants to speak first, please do.
My name is Ken Tyler. I live at 37150 West 95th Street. First of all, yes, it does concern the roadways, but I think as far as the rezoning on any of these things for light industrial or any kind of changes, I think you're jumping the gun without actually having some kind of real plan on redevelopment of the highways, 95th or the roadways, 95th, Sunflowers. They all have some real serious needs if you're going to put any kind of industrial on it, and they should be addressed before giving any kind of zoning change, so we know what's going on, where it's going to come from. Because I'll guarantee you, there's going to be a truck driver gets lost and it's going to come off on Edgerton, and he's going to come up eastbound on 95th, and like the Manson said a few eternity ago, there's a hill there, and you cannot see anything till you crest that hill. And if you got trucks coming up and down that hill, and you got families driving their cars up and down it, there's only one place to go, and that's the ditch. So those ditches need to be closed. You need to have some kind of drainage. Those roads need to be widened and reinforced for trucks. And just giving a blanket M1 or whatever it's called without addressing that first, I think you're remiss in this attitude. That's what I got to say.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
I'm Becky Gallagher. I live at 9130 Sunflower Road. I just wanted to start by first of all saying that this group of people, we're not ignorant country bumpkins who don't have any intelligence. Like we are all very smart people. We're a community and we love where we live. We love DeSoto. We're not anti-progress. So I think all of us want to see DeSoto grow and thrive. But what we really want to see is something that is compatible and appropriate for the neighborhood, because I really believe strongly that if any of y'all lived along this corridor, maybe some of you do, but if you don't, I think you would have the same hesitations about this rezoning that we all do. We and I think some of it is sort of like the can of worms thing. It's not just this company, but it's the can of worms that for the future that we're concerned about, like you've been talking about. What else could come in here with this rezoning? And as far as tax abatements and how companies don't ditch a city, that's actually not true. That's why the governor of Kansas and the governor of Missouri are in talks about having this like kind of no compete zone where they're not allowed to like lure people across the state line. Companies do that all the time. The NCAA left Overland Park for I don't even know where they went, but they're not in Kansas anymore because of things like that. So that actually does happen all the time once the tax abatements are done. And also, I'm not sure if this is the right time to ask this, but there was a question asked earlier about how many outside vehicles are going to be coming in, and he did not answer the question. He kind of skirted around it. So, like, we understand that there's 2 trucks that are owned by them, but in terms of numbers coming in from outside, like yellow freight or whatever, was not actually sufficiently addressed. So maybe that could be addressed later. Also, since we actually do live right next to the newest park, Lexington Lake Park, we've seen the traffic out there already increase, which is wonderful because it's a beautiful park. I believe that having this hub logistics place down there would actually affect the quality of the experience of getting to this park, using the park. And in addition to that, you have a lot of people who actually walk on Sunflower Road. They walk on 83rd Street, they walk on Sunflower Road, 95th. They walk their dogs and they walk to the park. So they live close, or they live in DeSoto and they walk out, actually. So that's an issue as well. And I just would like to say that another thing as far as safety is we already have safety issues with the Merck traffic, honestly, over on 87th Street. It's very hilly over there, and there's blind hills, and I cannot tell you how many times I've been driving on that road where trucks coming out for Merck because they have that entrance over there, and they're drifting over the line, and I'm just like, one of these days, one of these people is going to drift, over the line on this hill, and they're going to hit me, or they're going to, even worse, they're going to hit the groups of kids from the high school who run out there very frequently in packs. And, they're kids. And I've stopped and I've said to them, please, single file. We don't want to hit you. But that you have to take into consideration that even the new 91st Street is going to be used by the cross country team, the track team. They're going to be using that because it's a direct line from the high school out to the park where they can run on the cross country track that's out there. So I just wanted to bring up some of those things. And also, there are empty warehouse spaces, other places that could take something like this. There's not a huge need for it in DeSoto. And, I hope that we can, maybe we can, in your long-term plan, you can add in some other areas that aren't already residential areas where people have lived for 25, 30, 40 years or longer. So.
Becky, thank you. Can I ask, you live close to the intersection. You live right next to the park on Sunflower Road.
The new 91st Street is coming out between the driveway and the park entrance.
You're right there, close.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So. Just an opinion. What do you think that area, the long-range plan for that area would be?
I've always envisioned that as being a great place for there to be more homes. There's a lot of big tracts of land out there that could be developed into single-family homes. There could even be mixed use. There could be multifamily mixed with single-family homes. Johnson County Parks and Rec might want some of that land out there to build, soccer. There's always a need for, I guess, soccer fields for kids. And, there's things like that it could be used for. And the property that's in question could also be used for things like that. And that would be a good quality of life thing. And I think it would be consistent with DeSoto's goals to have those types of things there.
Thank you, Becky.
Yep.
Thank you.
Don't rush. Don't get in the don't run into each other coming up. Somebody else must want to speak. Please. Okay.
My name is Tracy Galtney, and I live at 34860 West 95th Street. So I live west of the property in question.
East.
Sorry, east, yes. I won't repeat anything she said because I know you guys all know the property very well. But even the new street that's going in goes right beside Starside Elementary, where a lot of people walk to and from school to pick up kids. We have DeSoto High School over there and LTMS. And if anyone has ever driven through that area when it is let out time for either the elementary or the high school, the logistics over there are completely insane. Adding trucks into that, I think, could be a severe issue with just safety of that whole area. And then again, because I do live east of that area, the roads on where I live, right in front of my house, there's no way that you can continue to drive two vehicles down the road because the road is literally just disintegrating. So I guess infrastructure of the roads over there are just really poor. We do get a lot of trucks that go up and down. We have Lumber One that travels on that road. And then we have, other random trucks coming in. So just regular vehicle traffic is even sketchy. I don't know if you guys have driven down that road lately. It's down to gravel. So, and then everything else that has already been said, just, we live right by the park, but there's no way in the world I would let any of my 3 kids ride their bike on that road because of the danger of, we live downhill. Those trucks fly down the road as it is, and even cars and people. The increased traffic going to the park now, like there's no way. If you're walking on that road, you're taking your life in your hands. There is no way I would let my kids walk on either of those roads. So, I mean, maybe that's something that I do agree. There does need to be, industry that comes in and grow the city, but I think there's steps probably ahead of where we're going. So I guess that's my piece.
Yeah. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Not sure my opinion matters too much. I live west of Sunflower 95th. I'm on Rowan, but I'm going to say it anyway. Rob Childers, 9400 Rowan Road. Got 5 special needs kids. That's why we moved out to DeSoto for the school district. The only way we could find any kind of housing that could house 2 kids with heart conditions, feeding tubes, as well as a kid in a wheelchair is moving out away from the city because we needed something with a ranch. No way that I agree with Tracy. There's no way that any of my kids can walk down 95th anymore right now. With the increased traffic to the park and with the trucks that do not go the speed limit. I ride a motorcycle myself, and I'm terrified coming in off of Lexington. I have to take Edgerton just because it's closer to get to home so that I don't get run off the road, which I've almost happened twice, let alone adding semi traffic to the area. So I would very much disagree with any kind of zoning other than rural out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Anybody else?
I won't take it. Arliss Gallagher, and I live at 9130 Sunflower Road. I guess I just say, first of all, that I'm not in favor of this project because it's just not suitable for that area. And anyway, I did ask Mike some questions about the tax abatement. I think that was, and he said it was going to be 85% for 10 years. On Sim's website, they say that they've been in business since 2010. So they're already moving away from that. I don't know if they had tax abatements in Texas, but if they did, they're moving out before that 10-year tax abatement is over. Now, I don't know. I'm just making assumptions there. And also, their website earlier had an article or had a link to an article from the Kansas City Business Journal saying that they had an office since June of 2017 on Strangline Road at about 112th and Strangline. So they have not been, I mean, they've been doing things, looking around, and I think that article continued in September of 2017 saying they were looking at the intermodal thing at Edgerton and Gardner. I don't know anything more about it, but that's just what their website said. And when I asked Mike how much money are we talking about in that tax abatement, he said, now I didn't figure this because I didn't have the mill levy and all that information, but he said approximately $293,000. Did any of you get a tax abatement? Well, I never did. And that's all the taxes. I thought, well, maybe it was just the city tax, but no, it's the school tax, the county tax, and whatever else tax is on there. So anyway, I'm just not in favor of the changing of the zoning because this, well, I guess it's been agricultural or homes ever since I've lived there for 43 years, I guess. So I'm not in favor of it.
Thanks, Ms. Gallagher.
My name's Sam, male, 37265 West 95th Street. I think Mr. Manson said something about it, but the property is going to be cut into two 10-acre tracts. They're going to keep one 10 and probably sell the other 10 off. They've changed their mind a couple times on their site plan. So, technology, why do they need a sign on the highway? Why do they need highway visibility? Why are they leaving Dallas, Texas? They like a small town. So be it. Have you ever seen a high school kid drive through a roundabout? Have you seen a semi truck make a roundabout? They can't. Legal size or not, they can't do it. You say something about semis on in front of a C2 property, 83rd Street. Can't have it. Hopefully, you don't want them going through a residential area or in front of a star side. That's all residential there. I'm sure I'm missing something. So I just think they got alternative motives than what they're leading you to believe. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Holly Barth, 37070 West 95th Street. I don't want to repeat everything else that everyone else has said. Do want to say that we have a petition that you all have, over 50 signatures. A lot of those folks are here tonight. A lot of them aren't standing up. A lot of them have, which is awesome. But that is telling you our voices. We want you to hear us. We do not want this M1 zoning to go into place. I mean, Gallagher's couldn't have said it any better. And Sam with the roundabout, spot on. If it came from Shawnee with all the roundabouts over there, it's a disaster. I mean, I get why they're doing it from a flow perspective, but a bunch of high school kids, and you got semi trucks coming through there. And to their point earlier, they've got 2 trucks, maybe 3. How many are coming in that they're not talking about, they're not addressing, they're not being clear about? So I think, strongly oppose this rezoning request. We all signed a petition as much. We do not want this, not just them, but that area to be zoned light industrial. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
Leslie Jansen, 35300 West 95th Street. I agree with everybody on the traffic. It's just not ready for it. And this, I don't know if you've seen this, was passed around that I just have I need some questions answered. I'm for progress, but we're not ready right now for the trucking. This that was passed around says they're going to have 15 semi-parking stalls and 25 trailer stalls, not just 2 trucks and maybe some trailers. I mean, it doesn't seem specific enough.
It's on the diagram.
Yeah. So, I feel like I'm being led astray, and that this could, if it goes to M1, anything could come in. That would be potentially opening the floodgates to something we may not want.
That's a good point, Leslie. I mean, yeah, I picked up on that. So all those trailer parking spots and
And
a lot of
two
acres.
trucks and
A lot of acres there. I mean, we put restraints on, a site plan and blah blah blah. Tell them where they can drive, etc. But it still can be difficult.
Yeah, and is this the real? This is getting circulated with 25 trailer stalls and 70 employees. It's like, but we're hearing 2 trucks. So I'm just kind of like, no, I want some real answers. So
Good point.
That's my point.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. I mean, this is a public portion of the hearing. I mean, I'm going to throw this out to the applicant. They could come up and defend that parking statement again. I think if they would like to, I mean, wait your turn, and if you would like to.
I was just trying to give the current state of the operation. So this is where we're at right now. I mean, yeah, growth-wise, we would love to add, freight brokerage employees, and then see where the warehousing kind of takes us, right? So I think the two trucks right now is where we're at, but our bread and butter is a freight brokerage, and then we want to add to that. So I mean, it's business. We're planning for the future. We wanted the site to look. To see what it looks like, 10 years from now. So.
Okay, Justin. Well, so all right, the drift is right now too, but you want to keep your option.
Yeah.
You want to keep it open too.
You're looking to expand and get more people and more equipment and
we're
more
growing,
stuff in.
We're a growing company.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
Sure.
I mean, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense for the road system, but it makes sense for your business.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, yeah. I mean, why would you build somewhere where you can only have 2 vehicles forever? Or you know what I'm saying? Like, okay,
which is probably why you're moving out of Olathe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're renting in Olathe right now. We want to build. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
you, Justin. So.
Will Moneymaker, 36715 West 95th. I was thinking, I looked at the Sims Global website, and they have a tagline, and one of those taglines is "Late is a 4-letter word." And if that's part of the culture, and people are running a little bit late, they're going to be going a little bit quicker than they should on the streets that they should be going on. And I just want what I feel and with DeSoto is we've got a 4-letter word too, and that's safe. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Will. Yes.
Scott Barger. I live at 9350 Rowan Road. Try not to reiterate points. A couple points that I don't believe were brought up. Although west on 95th, west of the subject property, it's listed as rural or agriculture. You look at the map, what you will actually see are residents. So I'd like to make the point that M1, in your own definition on on the comprehensive plans, I believe it makes a comment that says M1 should not be zoned adjacent to residential property. I don't want to speak for my neighbor who owns property adjacent to the subject property. When I drive by it, I consider it residence. So I'd like you to consider that.
Yeah, it's RUR, which I guess you could say that's residential. I mean, obviously,
I understand how it's zoned,
yeah.
how it's used to me. And
Yeah.
again, I don't want to speak for my neighbor who's next to it.
Yeah.
It looks like a residence, and ever since I've been here, it's looked like a residence. So,
okay.
And so I see that as a conflict with the own definition of the M1 zoning, would be my first comment. It's also going to be an interesting test case because what I see in the documents regarding this application or for the rezoning is a combination of looking at old plan and new plan.
Yeah.
I see how the most recent version of the plan indicates light industrial for that location, but I would like to reiterate, and it was mentioned earlier, that as recently as April of this year, it was marked as mixed use, not light industrial. So within a span of 4 months, we're going to leapfrog to something that, again, is not binding, but it appears becomes the default standard that we have to judge against, as if that's the answer that you have to argue against in terms of the contemporary plan says here's what it should be, and now you have to make an argument as to why that shouldn't be the case.
No, that's a good point.
It's not a should be; it's what we think it will be.
What we
Nothing
think it will
is
be.
Potential.
potential. Yeah.
But it is a recommendation.
No.
No? Not even by the city?
No, it's not really a recommendation, is it? It's
one of the things we use to guide us in decisions.
right.
Okay.
But it's not written in stone and can change at any time.
Okay. In terms of this particular application, was the recommendation to move forward with this zoning referencing the contemporary plan and the future land use in that contemporary plan?
It was both. We put them both in there. Yeah. So the
So it's
effective plan shows mixed use. It's in the staff report. We acknowledged, light
Right.
industrial was not consistent with that.
okay.
As was the new plan that is upcoming.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it in terms of future. I'm a property owner out there, the future land use, and I know this isn't about the plan that was discussed earlier, but when you see actual residencies marked as potentially being commercial zoned, where there's actually houses on that right now, it just makes me wonder about how should I, as a resident or a landowner out there, be using this contemporary plan? How should I look at it? What do I have to keep my eyes open to in terms of processes here or whatever recommendations permitting that type of stuff. The other thing that I'd just like to reiterate, I think you're making the right call. You have to divorce this permit decision from the applicant. Nothing against the applicant. You have to look at the extreme in terms of what is the extreme use that can be allowed under that permit. So whether they have designs or not for being at this level of business today or where they want to be in the future, you have to look at what is the potential use of that property, especially if you build the site plan they intend to build. Mm-hmm. Whether they have 2 trucks today or not, or what they intend in the future, you have to look at any potential owner to infinity to say, what could the use be? What could the traffic count be? The last thing I'd like to mention is you talk about the potential to restrict traffic on certain roads. I think I heard there may be some legality issues there. I think what's not being considered as much is, okay, maybe you can restrict 95th toward Lexington, Sunflower to Lexington, because I think that's DeSoto property. But I think it's county from Sunflower to Edgerton on 95th. I don't know if you have the property rights to restrict traffic on that.
Probably not.
No.
And so, yes, you may have great intentions and the ability to do certain things on Sunflower and on 95th between Sunflower and Lexington. But going west, again, where my neighbor said this truly is a neighborhood, along with the sightline issues, I don't think you have property rights to do any kind of restrictions on traffic there. And that just reiterates the safety point. But if there's a notion that you can restrict the traffic there, I'm not sure how much you could do that. So those are all my points.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Anybody else? Sure. You certainly may. You're Tracy, right? All right.
Becky,
Oh, Becky, excuse me.
9130 Sunflower Road. Okay. I just wanted to remind you guys, I'm sure you know this, but the reason it's not more densely populated out there is because it is not the city of DeSoto, it is the county. And so there are restrictions about how many acres, I mean, honestly, I really believe that's the only reason. We've all talked numerous times about, oh, wouldn't it be great to divide this property up and, build some houses on it, but it can't be done that right now. Some of these folks probably own more acres than my mom does, but as it stands right now, the county has a lot of restrictions on that. So just think about the fact that this could be a great place for some planned neighborhoods, like I was saying earlier, like with mixed, multifamily and even some small senior homes and things like that. Versus, eventually, if the county loosens up their restrictions on that, but instead of having it be light industrial, anyway, that's just my little.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Becky. Yeah.
Becky.
Sam. So who's going to pay for the fire hydrant?
Pay for the what?
For their fire suppression from the water tower to the building.
Well, I would not know that answer.
Okay. Does anybody know that they also are proposed to buy the property south on 95th? South of that property on south side of 95th.
We've heard that. Yeah.
That just happens to be zoned M1 as well. All of a sudden.
Wait a minute. Which property are these?
Straight south of the blue rectangle. Right there.
No, it's in the long-term plan.
Isn't that a gray area as well?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, in the future land, it's not currently zoned M1.
Well, no, it's not zoned, but it mysteriously got that way, the same as the subject property did. I didn't know if anybody knew that or not, but the same people are proposed to buy that piece too. So we could be back here again.
Okay, Sam, thanks. There must be somebody else out there, somebody that wants to say something about this rezoning. Too many smiles. There's a lot of clapping tonight, and that's good. That builds camaraderie. So.
I had to leave to go lock up my chickens. So.
Yeah.
There are priorities when you live in that area.
We need to use this microphone over
Because
here.
There's bobcats that have been grabbing them. One grabbed one the other day, and my dog stopped it right in the act. Saved the poor bird. So anyway, priorities are save my birds. Denise Everhart, 8910 Rowan Road. And they've probably already covered this, but my concern is the roads and the upkeep and the infrastructure, and I'm sure this has been covered. I have to stop as I drive because of trucks already, and they're not big trucks. These are smaller trucks that are hauling out of Lumber One on 95th, and I'm sure this has been covered too. I have to come to a full stop. And where they were talking about the hill going to the west on Edgerton, yeah, it's dangerous. You better be in your lane, and it's right there in front of Manson's, but you better be driving. You better be careful because somebody's coming over that at a high rate of speed and they're going to hit you. So it's always very cautious out there. And I think most of my neighbors are very cautious knowing the area on how they drive that area. I do know the trucks running and back and forth out there don't seem to care. They just go. And I don't think it's fair to our sheriff's department to make them sit there and enforce this all day long. We're going to be calling every time they're running the wrong way, which truckers will go the wrong direction because that's where their GPS told them to go. So it's not fair to put our sheriff's department under more job duties as far as watching a trucking industry come back and forth out of there. They can tell their truckers all day long, and this was probably covered too, but some of the equipment this company has freight on are not just small things. They are like large farm equipment that they do haul out to western Kansas, up north, things like that, wide load type stuff. So
who does that?
Sims does. It's on the internet what they do freight on. So
Pictures, yeah.
yeah, it's out there what they haul. They do keep it there overnight. Sometimes they haul in the night and then bank it for the night and then head out the next day or whatever they do. But yes, it is hauled in and out of there. So it is just basically a logistics center, like he was saying, is it down at Edgerton? That's technically Edgerton, but more it affected Gardner, and Gardner gets nothing from it. My sister lives down there. She's the only house that the modal didn't buy out. She's stuck there on 199th with traffic, trash, rats from the modal. She said rats are just insane coming from that modal.
They didn't try to buy her house?
No.
Rats. Really?
Rats. Bad
Okay.
rat population coming from the modal. So maybe they'll give the bobcats something to eat besides my birds. Anyway.
Well, I've never heard that one.
Well, they are. My sister lives there, and she never had a problem before the modal moved in. And they get trash blowing in onto their property. They back up to the modal, and she said it's a nightmare. The trucks are going day and night. So, and they're off the road a ways, but they still hear it. So yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Denise. Holly.
Sorry. Holly Barth, 3707 West 95th. One question about the hours of operation. I know that those noise ordinances that were talked about, but I haven't heard. We have what they said from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. it's 55 decibels, and from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. it's 50 decibel noise ordinance that's in that area, right? I have not heard when the business would be hours of operation. So they're going to have trucks that are loading and unloading at 2 and 3 in the morning, and having the semi truck backing up with the beep, beep, beep that you hear whenever trucks are backing up. That is not something that you would be able to conceal, cover with trees or a berm or whatever else you think you're going to cover that sound with. That's not going to be covered up. So that's something that we would be able to hear quite a distance away. And then secondly, just to point out, we do have 2 new houses that are being built on 95th Street. There was one that was just built across from Tracy, beautiful house. And then I believe that there's one that's being built down Rowan now across from Rob's house. There's a new house that's going to be built back in there. So we do have new homes that are being built in that area. These are young families that are living in these homes. And I just, back to my original comment, do not support. So thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Or Holly. Excuse me. I said the wrong name again.
Thank you.
I've got them written down here, but there must be somebody else. Anything you can think about on this topic, please get up and say it.
We don't bite regardless.
We don't bite. Yeah.
Natalie Nelson, 8623 Primrose Street. So perspective from another neighborhood, not anywhere near the site in question.
What was that
My
name?
concern is I'm sorry, what?
The name again?
Natalie Nelson.
Nadia.
Natalie.
Natalie. Excuse me. Okay.
My concern is that all of the talk of driving traffic for new zoning down 91st Street. We moved to DeSoto 10 years ago for the schools. And the schools are amazing in DeSoto, and that's one of our selling points is we have amazing schools. And when you start diverting traffic from rezoned down a road where, I mean, we've all seen the news channels that say how far an SUV can see, and we're always talking about keeping our kids safe. We have special processes at our school for drop off and pick up. So that road is, as much as we're doing to improve that road, it's for the schools and for the neighborhood and for the families. When we're talking about rezoning and routing traffic, that defeats the purpose of what the community thinks that we're doing. So I don't think any of us are in favor of this rezoning. We're all in favor of growth and we're all in favor of doing things the right way. But this just doesn't sound like it's being done the right way. So regardless of the business, I don't think any of us are just talking about the business, but once you rezone it, anything can come in. So if they're buying 25 plus another parcel, they're not using it for their purpose. It's the rezoning of it makes it available for anything. So that's just a different perspective from another part of DeSoto.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Natalie. Yes.
Bob Heinand at 9620 Sunflower Road. I live just south of the proposal. Also live catty corner from the water tower. an M1 or whatever.
Yeah.
You have that well lit. You took a nice country area and lit it up like a Christmas tree 24/7. I appreciate that. If you don't understand my sarcasm, it pretty pissed me off. You put up a shed, you light that thing up. Now, they're going to put up a warehouse. I can guarantee you that whole neighborhood's going to be lit up like a Christmas tree year round, 24/7. I moved into the country, been there for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
I love the neighborhood. I like it. I have a yard light just so I can hit my driveway when I come in at night, but I don't need to have it lit. So I like the darkness in the evenings.
Yeah.
And that I see that as a big concern to me from my perspective, where I live.
Thank you, Bob. Well, I mean, we have lighting requirements like at Lumber One. They can't throw so many lumens beyond their property line. But I didn't ever think of the water tower.
Well, you're talking about the light pack probably on that building.
Yeah, she lit it up like a Christmas tree.
We'll look at those. I didn't realize it was a casting light. We'll see what we can do about the new lights on the building.
Okay. Anybody else? I'm looking for movement out. There we go.
We're getting the same people over and over again.
Ken Tyler, 37150 West 95th Street. I know you said there were some requirements as far as their property, as far as maintenance of it, blacktop versus just a gravel, things like that. But is there anything in there that says that they have to maintain weed control, pest control, or anything like that? Because she's right. I lived in an area where there's a lot, before in Illinois, where there was a lot of intermodal stuff and rodents, raccoons, you name it. These critters are around and they're invasive. And now we have people who have cattle, we have people who have chickens and other stock that are now going to be in danger from these things, as well as rodents that carry diseases. And what's in there that makes them maintain that and keep that clean and cleaned up and keep that from happening?
I think it would be the same thing that makes each resident keep their property clean.
Is it in there? You said, I think it's.
That's my opinion. It's the same zoning ordinances that everybody's under about trash and litter. And I can't quote it. I can't give you a quote on that. You're just saying it should be a problem. It is not in this zoning request.
Their motivation would be if they don't keep it clean, their customers are not going to come back to it because they're going to see a dirty lot.
Where are we going to go?
Well, yeah.
I mean, that's a whole can of worms when you start telling people how to clean their house up. And I mean, you know what I'm saying? That's good point, though.
I guess we might consider putting a rabies control facility out there or something like that, or some kind of facility to maintain the varmints then. I mean, it is going to be a serious issue. We already have coyotes and raccoons and other things as it is, but if we put a facility that's going to have stuff that could draw even more, now we're talking about health issues. So, it's just something that I'm concerned about. Okay. We do have children.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Well, let's close the public hearing portion of the meeting and go back to staff and board discussion. So, any more questions for staff at this point in time?
I guess the only comment I would make at this point, Richards, is everything that everybody's brought forward. I think you've heard the full gamut of pros, cons, and all the issues that are surrounding this application, this rezoning. We didn't we make our recommendation with all those things in place, and I just reiterate, ours is to approve. However, obviously you all have the final say on this, and well, city council is the final say. But if you have any questions, please let us know, because I think it's something that
well, on the
well vetted.
roadways, on the roadway system. Um, assuming this were to be zone M1, there would be a current standard connecting roadway with the exception of Sunflower Road.
Correct.
And that section would be 91st, and it would have a roundabout, and it would come in right in front of Casey's at that stop sign.
Correct.
Okay. And I don't want to confuse the issue. The applicant told you, I know in your staff report you said they did a traffic study, and they said how many people were going to, or how many vehicle trips, et cetera, and that was quite a fairly low number, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I can address that. Yeah, they did perform a traffic study, really in connection with the site plan, but I
Yeah.
think in the zoning staff report, they're expecting at full build out in 10 years or within the life of their existence there. Initially they're starting with 30 employees, but that is projected to grow to 78 employees. And on an average weekday, that'll add 366 vehicle trips per day. So in would be one trip, out would be another trip. So 366. They did some analysis, some existing traffic counts in the area at 95th and Sunflower. It's, as you would expect, very low volume right now because of the rural nature of that. When you add the 366 to what's there now, you get something less than 500 vehicle trips per day through the intersection there. And when you look at that in terms of urban standard traffic volumes, it's far below any threshold for local access or local kind of just your least traveled streets. But again, that's in an urban sort of, you're judging that against an urban environment. So that threshold in our comprehensive plan actually speaks to it. Like in a regular residential neighborhood street, you don't want those local streets carrying any more than 1,500 trips per day. So it's only about a third of that. But again, this is not a road network that's to any type of standard that you see in urban settings. Those are the kind of, that's again with this particular use. But again, like we mentioned, M1 could have uses with parts, or
Okay.
could not even be that much.
Okay. As it relates, our long range plan, the one we're sending to council, we had envisioned this area. I don't know if you can pan over on showing 95th.
Do you want the land?
Or zoom out a little bit, or pan, or show more land to the left there where 95th connects into K10. Okay. That area, 95th was seen as somewhat a commercial corridor in our thinking.
The land use plan. Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah.
Sorry. So this is the corridor. So this is the new plan that we just talked about.
Yeah.
The existing one is a little bit. What we've envisioned, kind of at the 10,000 foot level, we talked about it a little bit. We see that area from Lexington Avenue to Sunflower Road between, in this corridor, transitioning for a lot of reasons. Because, like you mentioned, the roadway access, because of the ability to extend infrastructure into that area, and because it is in one of the areas that it's really the only way the city can grow is toward the west or toward the southwest. We've shown that for a number of decades now, transitioning from the rural residential in nature to something that's not rural residential. And the the planning principles involved there are, at the interchanges, you have nodes of commercial, like we see in the McDonald's and parks and that.
Yeah.
Radiating out from that is mixed use, which is kind of a catch-all category, but would include things like offices and some high density residential, but probably not. So that and then out from that further would be light industrial. And again, at even a higher level, if we were to zoom away from this map, you'll see the position of the sunflower property. We know that's a long, slow burn there, but I don't think that anybody's realistically expecting a lot of residential to occur on the sunflower property just because of the environmental remediation, environmental issues out there. The county's had a plan that shows some residential, but we think it's more likely to go light industrial or larger type of non-residential development.
Well, my point is, we saw that, everybody on this commission, past commissions, staff, we see that as something other than residential. And we're certainly hearing something different tonight from the people that live out there. And I would expect to hear that because, hey.
On the current version, we do have this blob of yellow just west of the subject property.
Yeah.
As residential. And because
Only 2 properties. There's 3 property owners.
Myself and Scott own the properties almost right above there. That's why it's residential. There's only 4 houses over there. You're saying you mentioned, and I got a question. You mentioned that you said that where K7,
could you come to the microphone and say your name and that?
And this has kind of got me.
I'm opening the public back up if you don't mind. All right,
when you
quick.
said that the between K7 and 95th Street you saw as commercial, which properties are you referring to?
you talk about K10.
K10. I apologize. That's K. You said K10 and 95th.
Along 95th
Where did you
Street, south of K10.
Well, you said where 95th connected with K10.
That's where it starts.
95th connects with K10 on the west side.
Yeah, that's where our
Edgerton Road. So you're saying, what are you guys going to do? I mean, that whole yellow is residential right now. You just said that you're going to make that commercial.
Well,
why did you say that then?
Mixed use and light residential. And we've had.
No, what's yellow on this map? This is.
All right. I understand that, but that's not what he's saying, though. That's why I'm trying to get some clarification.
All right. You see the red?
That's where this keeps getting confused because we have this map, we have the new one, and again, that is not set in stone. If whatever land out there on 95th between Edgerton and Lexington, if somebody bought it and built a home on it, there's no way we would put commercial in there or light industrial or anything because it would be all residential. But if light industrial comes in and buys up the lots and starts moving in there, then that kind of goes with the plan. The plan is not set in stone.
Okay.
Anything can happen.
I just wanted a clarification.
I understand.
So that's why I was trying to figure out what he was saying. It seemed backwards from what the direction is.
Explain it a little better. It's kind of first come, first serve. Now, I know there's some homes there, and there's some industrial trying to move in. So it's going to be kind of, okay, who really takes over the area? If people buy these lots and build homes, then it's probably going to stay residential. If commercial comes in and starts buying the land and starts turning it into commercial, then it's probably going to go that way. So we don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen. We're just trying to think of what might happen and how we can kind of try to define the city's plan of where it wants to go in the future with the land around.
Okay.
So
I appreciate that. I just wanted clarification on what you meant and where it was going because you started talking west, so that's why I asked.
Okay, thanks. All right.
Close the public hearing.
The public hearing is closed. All right.
Rosemary Mail.
I'm sorry, it's closed.
Okay, well, he said it was open.
No, he just.
No, I mean, I
just got one question.
All
If
right,
per
go ahead.
se, Rosemary Mail 37265 West 95th. Per se, you would switch this zoning. Do you also agree that you will put a wide sidewalk on Sunflower for the many of us that use it to walk, run, jog, bike, as a safety provision to the residents that are there? Because that's one thing I've
For
never
what we're
heard.
talking about right now, the 120-acre tract.
Yeah. Is there, is it, is,
So to your point, if we make it M1, if it did, then it has to meet the requirements required for developing on M1, which I believe requires sidewalks on the development. It has to go through that process of site submittal, gets reviewed. It has to have
For that
sidewalks.
lot.
It has to
so
have.
it has, okay.
Yeah. So it will be
For that
required
lot only.
Okay, so not anywhere along 95th.
Probably
Okay.
not.
wherever that development is under M1.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
All right, public hearing for the second time is closed. I'm letting things get out of hand, but I feel it's important. We have a big crowd. We were asking staff questions about of the long-term projected use of that area. And Ian, as he pointed out, yes, it's not cast in stone. It's just our best thoughts. Okay. We have a rezoning in front of us. Anybody else have any comments about what has been said and done tonight?
I do. I would like to thank everybody for coming out. We typically have no one in our audience. No one. So when we make our decisions, we did have the official future planning documents and for the comp plan, but very few people turned out on that based on our population. So we have to make our decisions, and the city staff has to make our decisions on our assumptions of what things are going to be. So we truly appreciate when you all take the time to come out and help us determine what you want DeSoto to be. And that's not only the planning commission, that's the city council meetings. They're televised. Have you guys looked to see how many people are in the audience? Very few. We need you. We need to hear your voices. And we truly appreciate you coming out tonight and letting us know how you feel. Because it's easy to look at all these documents and say, yep, that's what it should be. But then when you hear the human side, the personal side, it puts a whole different spin on things. So thank you for coming out.
Absolutely.
That's all I have.
Good. Okay. Well, my summary is this is kind of what we asked for. Here we are, but maybe we're a little premature because the road system doesn't seem to support very much. Utilities can probably work out, but the road system doesn't support. And obviously, we have screening requirement, we have screening, et cetera, et cetera. But boy, it's hard. I really hesitate through the road system at this point in time. So
I've got 5 points that I wrote down prior to people speaking. 5 points are M1 is for the full 25 acres. The building is proposed on less than 10 acres.
Yeah.
Future use that could be used on the property. Infrastructure does not support all of the uses that are listed.
Yeah.
So potentially get ourselves into trouble. Surrounding road systems does not support the M1 zoning. Not consistent with the current future use comprehensive plan, the current one, because the one we have has not been passed yet. So keep that in mind. M1 designation states in the comprehensive plan should be located along major roadways with truck traffic. If it has truck traffic, it should be located in the Sunflower redevelopment or sites not connected to residential. If you look adjacent to the M1 on the document he had is residential. So that doesn't even meet our own requirements that we have stated in our comprehensive plan. So that's my 5 points.
Can we Xerox that for a motion?
Sure.
You need to hand that to anybody else, any parting shots
Let's vote.
I would certainly entertain a motion.
You know, is there anybody from Johnson County Parks and Rec here?
I notified them. I don't know if they.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised they're not here.
I am too.
Yeah.
When I,
They have a beautiful park out there.
yeah, Monty was not happy. I know that when I contacted him with that plan. It was not part of their future plan,
Okay.
their vision.
You know, as Johnson County Park or taxpayers, I'd be a little upset.
Mm-hmm. I went out there for the first time today.
We paid for
and
that
that
park.
is a very nice park.
Yeah, we paid for that park. So
yeah.
Or you guys paid for that park out there.
They paid for it.
Everybody.
Yeah, everybody
all
paid
paid
for
We
that
all
park.
paid.
Yeah, it's a nice park. Anybody like to make a motion that might have some points, strong points written down? Todd. Okay. Somebody that just read them.
Todd, make a motion. Also.
What am I motioning exactly?
Your 5 points.
I guess you would
Deny.
if you're recommending denial, say that. I recommend denial to the city council based on
Your
these
point.
items.
Okay, I make a motion that we recommend denial to the city council based on the following points. M1 is for the full 25 acres and the proposed building is for less than 10 acres. The future use that could be used, on that property infrastructure does not support all the uses. Surrounding road systems does not support the M1 zoning. It's not consistent with the current future use comprehensive plan. And the M1 designation states they should be located along major roadways. And if it has truck traffic, it is to be located in the Sunflower redevelopment or sites not connected to residential.
Could we also add to that strong public objection?
Agreed.
Yeah.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. There's going to be a little dead air while Lana types that out.
It will take me just a couple of minutes here.
Okay.
Gosh, dang it.
You slowing down?
Yeah.
Careful, you got to go home with her.
I'm driving, so it's okay. You know, that's why I'm sitting over here, not over there.
Not within reach.
Brad, on a side topic, we advertised for public input in our long range plan by the Explorer, DeSoto Explorer, and on the DeSoto website.
It's on the
Discover DeSoto.
website, but we are required. We notified by the legal record, and so we notify the newspaper.
Yeah.
For Johnson County.
I don't know about when these meetings are or what they are. You mentioned that nobody comes to them. I just now found on the website that you can sign up to get emails. So maybe there could be we have that Discover in DeSoto or something that says how you can sign up to learn about when there are meetings and maybe even a little blurb about which the different meetings are for so that when people know what their could give feedback or.
Yeah.
Great. I appreciate that input.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
And a lot of us don't actually live in the city limits, so we don't always get notified.
But you can get the email notifications. Right.
Yeah.
Or Facebook.
And if you're curious on the city's website, you can go under the government. I believe it's under government. Yeah, the agendas and minutes, and it'll actually give you the agenda of what each meeting is for.
And when and everything
And
else.
when.
And the past minutes.
Yeah. And you can actually go back.
Make an account on DeSoto's website. You can sign up for those those feeds.
I just learned.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like just now.
Just when you were looking. Yeah.
I didn't know that you could do that before.
Yeah.
And you can also view the past meetings on YouTube. City Council and Planning Commission.
I will say on the city calendar right now, this meeting's not on there.
Yeah, it is. It's here.
Whatever city calendar I went to, it wasn't on there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Oh, so you went to the agenda on the
Agenda on the calendar. Right. Right.
The city council meetings are on the calendar.
Okay.
You say when, Lana?
Oh, I'm ready.
Oh, you're okay.
You
Excuse
want
me.
me to read it back?
uh,
I was waiting for all the.
oh,
please read it.
Okay.
yeah, read it back.
All right, make sure that I've got it correct for you. Motion by Commissioner Manson to recommend denial to the City Council based on the following points. 1, the M1 rezoning request is for the full 25 acres. Proposed building is less than 10 acres. 2, the future use that could be used on this property, the infrastructure does not support all uses. 3, the surrounding road systems do not support M1 zoning. 4, M1 is not consistent with the current future use comprehensive plan. 5, M1 designation states they should be located along major roadways and with truck traffic to be located in sunflower redevelopment or sites not connected to residential. And 6, strong public objection. Second by Lane.
Good.
Correct.
Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Fisher?
No. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
You're voting to recommend denial.
Yeah. We recommended denial.
Yes.
Yes.
A yes would be you're recommending denial.
Yes.
Okay. Schultz?
Yes.
McPherson?
Yes.
Manson?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. The motion carried.
Okay.
Just so you know, this is a
I would like to say though,
recommendation
this will appear on the city council's agenda on September 19th. So with that recommendation of denial, but ultimately the city council makes the final decision.
A
And
note
as
to
many of you should be there as possible so that you can tell them the same thing you told us.
because they can go the other way.
Yeah, they have the final word. We can say do this and they do that, and it's up to them. So show up for their meeting and make your voices heard.
a note to the applicant: if you understand the uphill battle you have, with the roadway system on this piece of property. I'm not saying it'll never get approved, but you gotta understand our position that this is quite a leap from where you are to M1. I mean, yes, we project that area to be, maybe falsely so, but we projected that area to be light industrial over the future, mixed use. But we were obviously off the mark. So that's all I've got for tonight on that.
Hey, Justin, I'll add to it too. We'd love to have your business, but I think it's on the wrong side of the street. I think you need to go over to Hutamaki on that side. It's already zoned M1 by Joe Bazone's. There's a lot of land over there. So
It's truly
And it's
nothing
already
to do
set
with
up.
your business at all. We do
yeah, we'd
want
love to have your business. It's just in the wrong location on that side of the street. I think it needs to be over by McDonald's.
Over by Custom Foods.
Yeah.
Big old chunk of land right there.
Yeah, agreed. Very good point. Anybody else want to say anything else before on this item 5C? If not, we'll move on to old business. Number 6, there's none. New business.
Richard.
7A.
On 7A, considering the vote we just took and the public opinion, I make a motion that we table any further work on this until the council makes a final decision on the rezoning.
Same with 7B, 7A and 7B.
7A and 7B.
We have a motion and we have a second.
I have a second.
We have a motion second to table items 7 and A and B.
Second.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Manson.
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
McPherson.
Yes.
Schultz.
Is Jim your brother?
Fisher.
Yes.
I rented from him.
Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. Motion carried.
All right.
That's your stuff too.
Oh, we got to close.
Yeah, we're okay. Sorry. Okay, new business. We're doing. We got the calendar, but let's skip that. We have a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
Yes.
All right, motion and second. All in favor, say aye. We're adjourned.
Hang on just a second. I was going to ask, with the packets that we get on the Friday before the meeting,
Right.
is there any way we could get these earlier? Because this was a lot to digest.
Yeah, it was a lot. I suppose.
I know you guys
it's
have.
Tough. It's tough. The line we walk is with the applicants. They submit things. We're revising them. We actually didn't get the revised site plan until noon on Friday.
Okay.
That's the kind of the drawback. We'd love to give it to you a week early, and we could move it up by we could move it up.
You just tell the applicants they have it in by a certain time.
Yeah, I get it. But what we try to do is work with applicants, be business friendly. Kind of that. We can work to get it out on a Thursday. I think it wouldn't be too much. It would give you an extra day.
It'd be nice if we go earlier than that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know
I was struggling to get through it this weekend because council had a lot of things.
Council does. Planning Commission's always been Friday.
Yeah, I was moving
Friday before Tuesday meeting.
They came with Candace. She's up at
Well, it needs to be earlier. Because this is way too much. This gives on Friday. You don't have Friday, Saturday, Sunday in a lot of cases. So it gives you Monday and part of Tuesday.
That'd be nice.
We do appreciate you guys all showing up.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh no, that's all right. Well, what's your name?
I'm actually and I've got a question for y'all.
Johnny.
I'm the township clerk.
We're not adjourned yet.
And I don't know who to report to. I haven't been sworn in. I got an election notice.
Oh, the new Lexington Township clerk?
We're not. Yes.
We're not. We're
Made a
adjourned.
motion and he seconded it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he didn't
No.
say all.
Well, there's so much commotion
Okay.
here,
Yeah.
Mike, and I never heard it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Actually, I started to do that, and then I asked him about the.
Yeah, we're not adjourning.
well, it's Johnson County.
Yeah, and I don't know who to talk to.
Okay.